Chapter 576. On the first hunting island of the Flaming Continent. On this day, Guojutao selected 10 people and planned to bring them to the refining platform. These 10 people were very excited. They had been waiting for so many days, and now they finally had the chance to become a Grand Desolate Master. However, when they opened the door of the workshop where the refining platform was, Guojutao suddenly stopped in his tracks. Everyone stopped in their tracks as well. The workshop did not have the same 10 refining platforms as before, but there were many more. Everyone was stunned for a moment. What was going on? Guojutao was also confused. Logically speaking, the appearance of the refining platforms should have something to do with Mr. Mo. However, Mr. Mo had been gone for many days, and now there were so many refining platforms here. This was inconceivable. Not only did the number of refining platforms change, but the appearance of the refining platforms also changed greatly. In the past, the refining platform was very simple. It was a round platform about a foot tall, and Guang Rong would sit cross-legged on it to cultivate. But now, each of the refining tables had a diameter of 1 meter, which was much wider than before. They were also 1 meter tall. Around each refining stage, there were many mysterious and profound talisman scripts. Just one look was enough to make one feel that it was unbelievable. Among these runes there were also some pictures that looked like giant dragons. Guojutao ordered his men to check all of the refining tables that had undergone changes. There were a total of 100 refining platforms. Then he called a few of the higher-ups of the base and the monk to study the refining platforms together. However, no matter how much they researched, they still couldn't come up with anything. In the end, the small monk said, "Damn it. Motherf***er, who cares? Let's just go up and refine it." However, the sudden appearance of the refining platforms made them feel uneasy. Who would be the first guinea pig? The monk shook his head helplessly. What's there to be afraid of? This must be Mr. Mo's doing. Don't worry, there won't be any harm. If you don't believe me, I'll be your guinea pig. Then he ignored Guojutao's attempts to stop him and jumped onto the refining platform. He nodded and said, "Yes, it's more spacious than the previous one. It's more comfortable." Then he sat on it and closed his eyes. No one knew if he was cultivating or resting. When the crowd saw this, they no longer tried to persuade him. Moreover, everyone was more inclined to believe that Mr. Mo was the culprit. Therefore he wasn't that worried. For the next 10 days, Guojutao paid close attention to the monk's movements. Fortunately, in these 10 days the monk looked the same as the others who had stepped onto the refining stage. There were no changes. 10 days later, Guojutao personally came to the refining platform. He looked at the multifunctional watch on his wrist. There was only 1 minute left. He was slightly worried. He didn't know if this new refining stage would make people stronger or if it would have some negative effects. Furthermore, the monk had already stepped onto the desolate refining platform once before and was already a Grand Desolate Master. He didn't know what would happen in the next 10 days. However, in his opinion, this new refining platform must have been created by Mo Sure. Therefore, even if there was an impact, it would definitely be a positive one. However, at this moment he suddenly realized that something was wrong. An extremely powerful aura suddenly spread out from the monk's body. This powerful aura even sent Guojutao flying more than 50 meters away. Guojutao was shocked and was about to call for help. At this moment, crack crack crack. The crisp sound of bones breaking came from the monk's body. Guojutao exclaimed, "Monk, come down quickly." However, it was too late. The monk's body suddenly underwent a huge change. His arms quickly lengthened and a pair of wings grew out from his back. A tail grew out from his back. At the same time, his body rapidly expanded. 10 meters, 20 meters, 50 meters, 100 meters. As his body continued to expand, the walls and the roof of the entire workshop quickly burst. Fortunately, Guojutao dodged quickly. Otherwise, he would have been injured. At this moment, he looked up from the roof of the workshop that had been blown open. He saw that it was actually a giant dragon. The monk had turned into a giant dragon. Roar! The giant dragon roared towards the sky. Everyone in the base was horrified. They hurriedly came out and looked up at the giant dragon that had already rushed into the sky. Roar! Roar! Dragon roars continuously came out from the giant dragon's mouth. Everyone was greatly shaken. After a full 5 minutes, the giant dragon descended from the sky. Everyone couldn't help but retreat. Those who were timid were so scared that their legs went soft and they directly sat on the ground. A moment later, the giant dragon retracted its wings and said in a human voice, "F***ck, I turned back into a human? Hey, who knows how I turned back into a human? This is urgent. Waiting online." Everyone recognized the voice when they heard it. It was obviously the monk's voice. How did the monk turn into a giant dragon? Guo Tao also reacted. This is the effect of the refining stage. While they were talking, the giant dragon's body rapidly changed. Then a red-skinned monk appeared in front of everyone. F*ck. The monk hurriedly covered his face with both hands. F*ck, someone reminded him, shouldn't you cover your lower body? The monk braced himself. If I cover my lower body, won't you see my face? But if you cover your face, won't we see your lower body? And if you cover your face, won't we know it's you? Your big head is brighter than a light bulb. Guo Tao reacted quickly. He hurriedly took off his coat and threw it to the monk. The monk tied the coat around his waist and immediately straightened his back. It was as if what just happened didn't happen at all. This guy's skin was really thick. He looked at his arms and body and asked Guo Tao next to him. Did you see it? A giant dragon. Guo Tao was a little confused and nodded. Yes, a giant dragon. The monk scratched his shiny head. Why the F*ck did I suddenly become a giant dragon? Guo Tao said. Maybe it's the refining stage. The monk nodded. That makes sense. Everyone around them was shocked and envious at the same time. The monk turned into a giant dragon. If I didn't see it with my own eyes, I wouldn't believe it. That night, Guo Tao discussed with a few higher-ups in the base. First, they conducted a poll to see how many people were willing to become a giant dragon. In the end, almost everyone was willing. After all, giant dragons were not only powerful but also had a long life. Now that there was a chance to become a giant dragon, how could they refuse? Therefore, Guo Tao and a group of higher-ups designed a selection process. Every 10 days, 100 people would be selected to go to the refining stage. In just 10 days, there would be 100 more giant dragons in the base. Chapter 577. The people of the Flaming Continent had worshipped dragons for tens of thousands of years. But now, more than 10 dragons had appeared in the base in just 10 days, which shocked everyone. Of course, the base was in the Dragon Palace. As long as they didn't fly out of the Dragon Palace, the people outside wouldn't be able to investigate the situation inside. Even if the investigation team came, as long as they didn't fly into the Dragon Palace, they wouldn't know that this experimental planet had started producing dragons. Although these dragons were only the most ordinary rank 1 dragons. But from humans to dragons, this was already a qualitative change. As long as the Dragon Palace continued to upgrade, the level of dragons it could produce would be higher and higher. Myriad Dragon Star Region, Cloud Sea Star. Today was the day Lei Ren went to the Cloud Sea Academy. The Lei family immediately became busy. Madame Lei asked Lei Ming to bring a lot of food and clothes for Lei Ren. Other than that, the most important thing was to bring a total of 10 bodyguards for Lei Ren. Among these 10 people, one was a rank 8 evolved dragon, while the rest were rank 6 to 7. This was really extravagant. Lei Ming didn't want to bring so many people. After all, once these people left, a third of the Lei family's high-end combat power would be taken away. But he couldn't persuade Madame Lei, so he could only bring them along. At this time, Emosher also bid farewell to Lei Ming and said, Brother Lei is going to the Cloud Sea Academy, and I happen to be going to the Cloud Sea City. I'll go take a look. Lei Ming was overjoyed when he saw this. With Emosher taking care of him, Lei Ren didn't need to bring so many followers to the Cloud Sea Academy. He didn't even need to bring a single one. Senior Mo alone is equivalent to an army of thousands of men and horses. Emosher also said, actually, Lei Ren has grown up and he should be independent. You can take care of him for now, but can you take care of him forever? Sooner or later, he will have to face some people and some things alone. But although Emosher said so, Madame Lei still didn't feel at ease. She had already asked people to find a place to stay in the Cloud Sea City in advance. She said that Senior Mo could stay there after going to the Cloud Sea City. At the same time, there were also some Lei family members and connections there. If you need anything, Senior Mo can just let me know. Emosher couldn't be bothered to say anything more. That afternoon he went to the Cloud Sea City with Lei Ren. Because Emosher was there, Lei Ming didn't send anyone else to escort them. Just the two of them rushed all the way to the city. Emosher did not use teleportation, nor did he use his lightning-attributed energy to fly. After all, he wasn't in a hurry. The two of them rode the mechanical flying beast that Lei Ming had given them and flew all the way to Ocean of Cloud City. This type of mechanical flying beast looked like a bird. There was a thruster under him. It could flap its wings like a real bird. Emosher sighed inwardly when he saw this. It was an ornithopter. In the past, on Earth, someone had proposed the idea of an ornithopter. However, due to many technical problems, the ornithopter had never been realized. Even though there were models of ornithopters on the flaming origin continent, they had yet to realize manned flight. At most, it would be an ornithopter spraying pesticide. He did not expect that the ornithopter had already become a reality in the 10,000 Dragon Star area. However, the appearance of the ornithopter here did not have that kind of cool technological feel. Instead, it was made up of parts and gears that could be seen with the naked eye. It gave off a mechanical feeling that was visible to the naked eye. It was similar to the style of steampunk. This type of ornithopter did not fly very fast. However, the advantage was that it was much more agile than ordinary aircraft. It flew and flipped. It flew horizontally to the left and right. It hovered in the air. It could do almost anything that a bird could do. They rode the ornithopter and flew over a few cities before arriving above a forest. Emosure scanned with his dragon will and discovered that there were many star beast cubs in the forest. The so-called star beasts were those beasts that could survive in space. After these beasts grew up, they were extremely powerful. There were even beasts that were so big that they could devour planets. They were called star beasts. However, although these star beasts were powerful, their cubs could not survive in space at all. Therefore, they had to give birth to their cubs on some life planets. If these cubs were lucky, they would grow up to become real star beasts in the future. If they were unlucky, they would die halfway. In order to let their descendants gain experience, the giant dragons would not kill all of these star beast cubs. Instead, they would deliberately leave some for the low-level giant dragons to practice on. If the giant dragons killed too many star beast cubs, then the adult star beasts would cause trouble everywhere. If the adult star beasts went overboard, the giant dragons would kill a large number of star beast cubs. In this way, a delicate balance was maintained between the giant dragons and the star beasts. Because Lei Ren was spoiled by his mother, he had never come to the wild to hunt star beast cubs. Moreover, he had just become a rank 2 evolved giant dragon. Seeing that there were star beast cubs below, he could not help but be eager to try. Emosure did not mind. Since they were not in a hurry, he would play with him. After the ornithopter landed, Lei Ren could not wait to jump off. Emosure jumped onto a nearby mountain and admired the scenery here. Star beast cubs were also divided into different grades. The lowest grade was a 10-year cub. Actually, it was just hatched and ranged from 1 to 10 years old. Then, it was a 20-year cub. Actually, it was a 10 to 20-year cub. 10 to 100-year cub corresponded to rank 1 to rank 10 of the giant dragons. Then, 110-year cub corresponded to rank 1 of the giant dragons. And so on and so forth. Lei Ren asked Emosure, "Big brother Emo, if it were me, I would choose a 120-year cub, right?" Emosure shook his head. "In the end, you still chose a 100-year cub." Lei Ren shook his head. "Big brother Emo, you are underestimating me. Rank 1 corresponds to 10 years. As a rank 2 evolved giant dragon, it should correspond to 120 years. You just wait and see." Emosure did not say much. This young man had never suffered before. Let him suffer more and learn from his mistakes. At this moment, Lei Ren took out a detector from the chip's space. This detector was specially used to detect star beast cubs within a radius of 10 kilometers. Not only could it show the location of the star beast cubs, it could also show the number and grade of the cubs. Very quickly, he confirmed that it was a 120-year cub that was alone. Then, with a few leaps, he arrived in front of the cub. It was a cub that looked like a crocodile. However, its body was more than 100 meters long. The scales on its back were triangular. At the end of its tail was a spiked hammer. Its pair of fangs looked very valiant. Seeing this, Lei Ren opened his mouth and let out a dragon's roar. However, the cub was not afraid of the dragon's roar like other creatures. When it saw Lei Ren blocking in front of it, it was furious. It also let out a hoarse but ear-piercing sound from its throat. Chapter 578. The star beast cub in front of him was called the Star Hammer Beast. Although it was only 100 meters long, if it really grew into a star beast, it could grow to millions or even tens of millions of kilometers long. The hammerhead on its tail was even more powerful. It could easily destroy a planet with one hammer. Even though the one in front of him was only 120 years old and was equivalent to a rank 2 evolved dragon. In terms of strength, it had already surpassed a rank 2 evolved dragon. It was even possible to challenge a rank 3 evolved dragon. Although Lei Ren was already a rank 2 evolved dragon, he had only just advanced. In addition, his mother had spoiled him since he was young, so he had almost never really experienced it. Those who practiced with him on a daily basis also gave in to Lei Ren. This made Lei Ren feel that his strength had far surpassed his peers. That was why he made the absurd decision to challenge a 120-year-old star beast cub alone. If the servants sent by Lei Ming were here, they would definitely coax him. They would secretly help him kill this 120-year-old star beast cub. If that was the case, Lei Ren could forget about learning anything in his life. Mo sure felt that this guy was simple-minded and wanted to teach him. At this moment, Lei Ren was facing the Star Hammer Beast Cub. Lightning energy condensed in his right arm. It directly blasted towards the Star Hammer Beast Cub. Swish swish swish, the Star Hammer Beast Cub's body was suddenly covered with lightning. However, not only did it not hurt it, but it also angered it even more. Roar, 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 it opened its huge mouth and made a strange hiss from its throat. Then it shook off its 4 claws and rushed towards Lei Ren. It was stuck to the ground like a crocodile. But when it really ran, its 4 claws were like the pedals of a bicycle, swinging extremely happily. It was extremely fast. Within a few seconds, it was less than 20 meters away from Lei Ren. In the next moment it suddenly braked, and the hammerhead behind it used the huge inertia to fly over its head. It directly smashed towards Lei Ren. Its speed and momentum shocked Lei Ming. He quickly dodged to the side. Rumble, this hammer smashed into the ground. It directly smashed a huge pit with a diameter of more than 20 meters. At the same time, large cracks began to appear around the crater. Lei Ren was careless and directly fell into a crack. Fortunately he could fly, so he quickly flew up. But just as he flew up, the huge hammer smashed down again. He was shocked. He hurriedly used his lightning-attributed speed to escape. However, the Star Hammer Beast didn't care about him. It just kept smashing the hammer on its tail. It was very adept at using the hammer. Smash wherever he pointed. Bang! A muffled sound was heard. The giant hammer with a diameter of more than 10 meters smashed into Lei Ren's shoulder. Crack! Lei Ren's shoulder collapsed. His whole body was knocked away by a huge force. He flew for over 100 meters before crashing into a cliff. Rumble, the cliff behind him was instantly torn apart. It turned into hundreds and thousands of pieces of stone that rumbled down. Lei Ren was completely buried. Only now did the Star Hammer Beast seem to have vented its anger. He let out a victorious roar from his throat and returned to the capital. At the same time, in the hidden Dragon City's City Lord's mansion that was thousands of kilometers away, Lei Ming and his wife were watching this scene through the air screen. They didn't intend to monitor Mo sure. Lei Ming didn't have the guts. On many planets in the 10,000 Dragon Star Zone, there were security monitoring systems that were responsible for monitoring the entire planet. This security monitoring system, like a satellite, could monitor any situation on the planet's surface from a low Earth orbit. As Madame Lei was really worried about her son, she asked Lei Ming to think of a way. Lei Ming could only ask his old comrade, the current head of the Planetary Defense Department, to get the real-time surveillance footage of his son. Then he saw this torturous and heart-wrenching scene. It was torturous to their son's body and their hearts. Madame Lei's eyes were filled with tears. No, I have to find my son. You have to send someone to find my son with me. Otherwise my son will definitely die there. Lei Ming hurriedly pulled his wife back. Madam, we dragons have extremely strong self-healing abilities. It won't take long for him to recover from such a small injury. Since we have already asked Senior Mo to find our son, if we send someone else, wouldn't it mean that we don't trust Senior Mo? I'm afraid it will cause Senior Mo to be dissatisfied. Madame Lei was furious when she heard this. Senior Mo, look at him. Our son has been beaten to such a state, and he is still sitting on the mountaintop watching the show. He even said that he is our son's brother. Is there a big brother like him? Lei Ming hurriedly covered his wife's mouth. He said, Madam, you can eat whatever you want, but you can't say whatever you want. If Senior Mo hears this, our Lei family will probably be annihilated. It's not like you don't know how the Tu family was annihilated. In the time it took to say a few words, in less than 5 minutes, all 321 members of the Tu family suddenly disappeared. You still dare to say that? Madame Lei also realized the seriousness of the matter. Her expression changed slightly and she hurriedly kept quiet. Then she turned to blame Lei Ming. It's all your fault. I said I would send a few clansmen to protect our son, but you refused. What about now? Lei Ming shook his head and said, Actually, I feel that Mr. Mo is tempering our son. Tempering? That's right. In the past, because of our doting on our son has never really been tempered. You have to know that the outside world is far crueler than imagined. If our son hasn't been tempered, how will he face this cruel world alone in the future? Mr. Mo has seen this point, So he is using this opportunity to accompany our son to Cloud Sea Academy to let our son gain some experience. This way, when our son arrives at the academy, he won't be ignorant and won't be mocked by the other students. Madame Lay heard this and nodded. But then she said, "That's true, but seeing our son suffer, I don't feel good in my heart." Lei Ming nodded. "I know. But even if it's not good, we have to bear with it. Otherwise, when our son faces the world alone in the future and suffers, it will be a huge loss. Although he is called a hedonistic son, he hasn't experienced much and is too naive. It's too easy for him to be taken advantage of." Madame Lay nodded again. "Yes, I understand." At the same time in the forest, under the cliff of the mountain that Emosher was sitting on. More than 10 minutes later, the pile of rocks flew away with a crashing sound. Lei Ming's figure climbed out from it. At this moment he was no longer the elegant young master he used to be. Instead he was in a very sorry state. His left shoulder had caved in, and a large piece of the clothes on his shoulder had been torn off. The current him didn't have the appearance of the number one hedonistic son within 1,000 miles. Chapter 579. Lei Ren crawled out from the pile of rocks in a sorry state. Even his shoulder had sunk in. Not only was he in a sorry state, he was in a miserable state. His left shoulder drooped as he looked at Emosher with a bitter face. He was angry and wronged. "Brother Emo, I want to kill the hammering star beast. Come with me now, I want to take revenge." Emosher shrugged. "Go ahead if you want to take revenge, what does it have to do with me?" Lei Ren said angrily, "If that guy doesn't die, I won't be able to vent my anger. But that guy is too strong, I can't win against him. So Brother Emo, please help me, I must kill him today." At the end of his sentence he was almost shouting. His eyes were bloodshot. Emosher laughed. "Do you have to find someone to stand up for you every time you get bullied?" Lei Ren raised his head. "In Hidden Dragon City, my father is the boss and I'm the second boss. Who dares to bully me?" Emosher nodded. "Then let's put it another way, do you have to stand up for your servants every time you bully someone?" Lei Ren thought for a while and said, "Sometimes the servants don't even need to do anything. When I go over, those guys will beg for mercy." Emosher laughed. "That's because they are afraid of your father and the power of the Lei family. What if we get rid of the servants, your father, and the entire Lei family? What else do you have? What else do you have?" Lei Ren was stunned. The anger in his heart immediately disappeared. He had never thought about this before. He had always thought that everyone was afraid of him. If he wanted something, as long as he gave the order, everyone would rush to do it, afraid that they would be late. If he wanted to beat someone up, as long as he gave the order, everyone would help him beat them up. Sometimes, that person would even kneel in front of him and let him beat them up. They didn't dare to fight back. But now, when Emosher raised this question, he thought of something for the first time. But after all, he had never thought about this before, so what he could think of was very shallow. Emosher laughed coldly. "You can't even defeat a hammerhead beast cub of the same level, what else can you do? Once you go to the Ocean of Clouds Academy, your father won't be there to protect you, and everyone there is a genius there. All of them had power and background. Who would spoil you like your parents? I'm afraid he'll be beaten to death in less than a month." When Lei Ren heard this, his face darkened. Wang Yi sighed again. "No one can grow up under their parents' wings. One day you will have to go out and face the world on your own. This world is 100 times crueler than anything you've ever seen. If you don't have sufficient strength, you won't be able to go far." Lei Ren's face darkened. After a long time he raised his head and asked, "Big brother Emma, then, what should I do?" After all, he was just like a baby who had just come out of swaddling clothes. He had no knowledge of the world at all. Now that he was suddenly reminded by Emosher, there was only fear and panic. Naturally, he didn't have any ideas. Emosher shook his head and said, "Don't worry. Go challenge the 100-year-old star beast cubs first. When your strength increases, come and challenge the hammering star beast cubs." Lei Ren said. "But I'm afraid that will delay the start of the school." Emosher smiled. "With your current strength, even if you make it in time for the start of the school, won't you be tortured everywhere? Why don't you get tortured enough here? When your strength increases, you can go to the academy to torture others. Wouldn't that be better?" When Lei Ren heard this, his eyes lit up. Then he took out the star beast detector and scanned again. He found a 100-year-old star beast, the carrying star beast cubs. The carrying star beast cubs were more than 80 meters long. They wriggled on the ground like a snail. At the same time, there was a boulder-like protrusion on its back. However, this protrusion was hollow. When it encountered a powerful enemy, its body would shrink into the boulder on its back and lie on the ground, pretending to be a boulder. When it grew into a real giant star beast, the protrusion on its back would completely grow into the shape of a planet. When it encountered a powerful giant star beast, it would shrink into the shell on its back and pretend to be a planet. This kind of star beast was weak in offense but strong in defense. It was suitable for Lei Ren to practice. Lei Ren jumped in front of the carrying star beast cubs. Seeing this, the carrying star beast cubs ignored him. It turned around and wriggled in the other direction. Wherever it passed, it would leave behind an oily trail. Lei Ren condensed lightning and threw it at the carrying star beast. Buzz buzz buzz, the carrying star beast's body was instantly covered with lightning. At the same time, some black smoke was emitted. A burnt smell spread out along with the black smoke. It was very unpleasant. However, this only made the carrying star beast cubs shrink their antennae. The next moment, it opened its mouth. The tongue in its mouth was like lightning. It wrapped around Lei Ren and rolled into his mouth. The moment it opened its mouth, Mo sure saw that its mouth was filled with triangular teeth. There was also a circle of teeth in its upper and lower palate and throat. If he was swallowed, he would be minced into meat paste in minutes. He couldn't help but be surprised. On the surface, this kind of star beast didn't seem to be aggressive. It was like a snail waiting to be slaughtered. He didn't expect it to have countless small saw teeth in its mouth. This guy's level was 2 levels lower than the carrying star beast. However, in terms of danger, it was much higher than the carrying star beast cubs. After all, no matter how powerful the carrying star beast was, it could at most beat Lei Ren up. Broken bones, arms and legs were nothing to a giant dragon. It wouldn't take long for them to recover. However, if he was swallowed by this guy, he would be minced into meat paste in minutes. Even with the self-healing ability of the giant dragons, it was impossible for them to revive after being minced into meat paste. When Mo sure saw this, he didn't immediately take action. He wanted to see Lei Ren's ability to react on the spot. If this guy's ability to react was too weak, then there was really no need to spend so much effort to nurture him. In the hidden dragon city. When Madame Lei saw this scene, she instantly exclaimed, "Ren." However, Lei Ming knew that Mo sure wouldn't just watch his son get swallowed. Finally, when Lei Ren was about to be swallowed, Mo sure moved. With a thought, he directly used energy to move a huge rock from the side. He threw it into the carrying star beast cub's mouth. Crack, 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 crack. That huge rock was more than 10 meters tall. However, when it was thrown into the carrying star beast's mouth, it was like being thrown into a stone crusher. It was quickly crushed into pieces by the teeth in its mouth. Mo sure's heart skipped a beat. Good job. If it was allowed to grow, even a planet wouldn't be enough for it to swallow. Fortunately, with this block, its tongue also let go of Lei Ren and retracted. Lei Ren crawled up in a sorry state and hurriedly jumped away. In the hidden dragon city's city lord's residence. When Madame Lei saw this, she heaved a sigh of relief. She clutched her chest. That scared me to death. Lei Ming also heaved a sigh of relief. I said that Senior Mo wouldn't just sit by and watch. Chapter 580. Lei Ren was saved by Mo sure. He watched as the infant planet-carrying beast ate the stone like it was eating beans. Crunch, crunch, crunch. He furrowed his brows and released lightning energy at the baby planet-carrying beast again. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Once again, the young planet-carrying beast's skin started smoking due to the lightning. But this made it even angrier. It opened its mouth and its tongue shot out like lightning. It wrapped around Lei Ren again and pulled him into its mouth. Lei Ren seemed to be prepared for this. Lightning flashed all over his body. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Smoke came out of the planet carrier beast's tongue. It let go of Lei Ren and shrank back. Seeing this, Mo sure nodded to himself. This brat still had some comprehension ability. Then Lei Ren fought with the baby planet carrier beast, which was 2 levels lower than him, for 2 hours. In the end, no one could subdue the other. The baby planet carrier beast saw how powerful Lei Ren's lightning was and immediately drilled into its stone-like shell. In this way, Lei Ren couldn't do anything to it. Mo sure saw that Lei Ren kept releasing lightning, but the baby planet carrier beast didn't care at all. He shook his head helplessly. Do you only know how to release lightning? Don't you have any other skills? Lei Ren turned around and said while panting, "It's hard to condense lightning energy. Our lightning-attributed lightning is very difficult to condense. Unlike other types of energy that can be condensed into blades, swords, light pillars and light blades, we of the Lei family fight directly with our energy." Mo sure shook his head helplessly. This guy's combat experience was too lacking. He said, "Try to condense a dragon claw." Lei Ren nodded. Soon, his entire right arm turned into a 3-meter-long dragon claw. The blue-black scales on it looked very cool. Emosure said, "Try to attach the energy to the dragon claw. Don't release it." Lei Ren nodded again and attached the energy to the dragon claw. At first, it was hard to control. The energy would be released if he wasn't careful. After all, lightning energy was very unstable. It wasn't as easy to control as other energies. But after trying for more than 2 hours, he finally managed to attach the energy to the dragon claw. During these 2 hours, he wanted to give up many times. Emosure only said one thing: "Do you want to go from the number 1 hedonist to the number 1 joke?" Although this guy was a hedonistic son of a rich family, his pride was still quite strong. After being provoked by Emosure, he immediately shook his head. "No, I won't be a joke. Even if I go to Ocean of Clouds Academy, I'll still be ranked at the top amongst the new students." When Lei Ming saw his son's words on the screen, his eyes lit up. For so many years, his son had always been the number 1 silk pants in the area. He had thought of many ways to change the situation, but first, his wife was always obstructing him, and second, his son did not seem to want to change at all. Who would have thought that he would say something like that today? He knew self-respect. And all of this was because of the changes Emosure had brought to his son. Madame Lei couldn't bear to see her son suffer. But while he couldn't bear it, he was also secretly grateful to Emosure. If his son was still by his side, he would probably be a good-for-nothing for the rest of his life. At the scene, when Lei Ren added energy to his dragon claws and stabbed at the stone on the back of the planet-carrying beast that even swords couldn't cut open. Swish, swish, swish. After a few soft sounds, the stone-like shell on the back of the planet-carrying beast was instantly pierced through. Roar, hiss, the planet-carrying beast was instantly in pain and anger. Its upper body suddenly popped out of its shell and shot towards Lei Ren. No one expected that apart from its tongue, its head could also shoot out more than 10 meters. At the same time, it opened its huge mouth full of triangular teeth and tried to swallow Lei Ren. Lei Ren hurriedly raised his claws to block in front of him. But the planet-carrying beast's tongue shot out again, went around the huge claws and wrapped around Lei Ren. It quickly pulled Lei Ren towards its mouth. And because it was too close, it almost instantly pulled Lei Ren to its mouth. At this moment, Lei Ren finally released his lightning. Swish, 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 the planet-carrying beast's body trembled. Lei Ren took the opportunity to cut off the planet-carrying beast's tongue with his sharp claws. Swish, swish, swish. Amidst the sparks, the planet-carrying beast's tongue was instantly cut off. Lei Ren pinched off half of the tongue, and the 3-meter-long sharp claws on his right arm slashed towards the planet-carrying beast. The planet-carrying beast hurriedly retracted its upper body and shrank back into its shell. At the same time, the whole shell started to roll. Who knew how it did it? It was like a rock rolling down a hill, quickly rolling into the distance. Lei Ren was still in shock. Looking at his sharp claws, his face was a little pale. That was close. He would have been minced into meat paste just now. At this moment, Emosure smiled and said, "This kind of fighting method is very harmful to the enemy. But at the same time, because it's close combat and extremely dangerous, you have to learn to be very flexible and able to adapt to the situation." After a while, Lei Ren finally came back to his senses. He nodded and said, "I will." Emosure continued, "I know that after a giant dragon transforms into its true form, its fighting method is to directly use its claws and fangs. Because the giant dragon's body is very strong, many giant dragons don't care about energy. And after transforming into a giant dragon, it's not easy to control energy, so it's very difficult to attach energy to the claws and fangs. But if you can attach energy to any part of your body through continuous practice, then your fighting power will increase by 100 times. With that, Emosure's right arm turned into a dragon claw. Lightning energy was attached to the dragon claw. Then his left arm turned into a dragon claw, and the energy was still attached to the dragon claw. Left leg, right leg, and even the tail behind him. His energy could be attached to any part of his body as he wished. This made Lei Ren feel envious. When would he be able to train to such a level? But while he was envious, he also secretly made up his mind to train to such a level. At the same time, Lei Ren saw this scene and was also quite surprised. He knew that when giant dragons transformed into human form, they could attach energy to any part of their body. But when transforming into a giant dragon, he had never seen a giant dragon do this. Could it be that Senior Mo could do it? If that was the case, then his fighting power would increase by 100 times. After another 3 days, Lei Ren was finally able to attach energy to any part of his body in his human form. And his fighting power had also increased greatly. When facing a planet-carrying beast, he could kill it in one hit. After killing more than 10 planet-carrying beast cubs in one go, he turned around and asked Emo, "Brother Emo, how is it?" Emo raised his head to look at the setting sun on the horizon, pretending not to hear anything. Chapter 581. Brother Emo, how is it? Leiren asked. Emo acted as if he didn't hear anything as he looked at the setting sun. Leiren understood that he was still far from Brother Mo's requirements. Of course not. One must know that Emo had been challenging those of a higher level all the way. At his peak, he had even challenged those of a higher level. Now, this guy had only defeated a creature that was 2 levels lower than him, and he was already feeling complacent? This was the difference between dragons. Next, Emo let Leiren challenge a 110-year star beast cub. In the beginning, Leiren was still flattered. But later on, Leiren completely grasped the method of attaching energy to any part of his body. Only then did he defeat that star beast cub. Next, he challenged 2, 3, 5, a group. After 5 days, he was finally able to challenge a group of 110-year star beast cub. Next, he challenged a 120-year star beast cub. This time, no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't defeat that star hammer beast cub. Not only was the star hammer beast invincible in attack, but its defense was also extremely strong and its speed was also very fast. If Leiren really wanted to defeat the star hammer beast, there was only one way: transform into a giant dragon. This was the magic weapon of all giant dragons. After transforming into a giant dragon, their fighting power would be completely unleashed. Their claws would be sharper and their defense would be stronger. Their fighting power would increase by at least 10 times. But Emo said to Leiren, who was about to transform, "You haven't fully unleashed the power of your human body. You haven't fully unleashed the power of the lightning attribute energy." Leiren was a little confused. "I feel that I have already used my human body to the limit. Even if I were to face a rank 3 evolved giant dragon, I would still be able to fight." Emo smiled. In his right hand, a bolt of lightning was condensed. Then, with a thought, the lightning quickly condensed into a ball shape. Then it condensed into a blade shape, a whip shape, a sword shape, and even a bow shape. This scene made Leiren's eyes almost pop out. At the same time, Lei Ming, who was watching this scene in front of the screen, also had his eyes almost fall out. Since ancient times, the lightning attribute energy had been extremely unstable. To be able to release it towards the target without deviation, one had to go through continuous practice. But now, Senior Emo was able to condense the energy into various shapes. This completely subverted their understanding of lightning attribute energy. At this moment, Emo made another shocking move. His right hand condensed a ball of thunder attribute energy. Then, the lightning attribute energy actually condensed into a lightning dragon in the sky. The lightning dragon continued to fly and flicker in the sky, making crackling sounds. Even the clouds in the sky were slightly stirred up. In the next moment, he swung his right hand down. The 100-meter-long dragon in the sky immediately descended towards a mountain. Crack. Rumble, the mountaintop exploded. 1,000 meters of the 5,000-meter-tall mountain was blown away. The flying rocks scattered in all directions, smashing and breaking the trees in the surrounding forest. Those baby star beasts were so frightened that they scattered in all directions. As for the group of star hammer beast cubs on the mountain top, they were all killed by the lightning dragon. One fell right in front of Leiren's feet. Leiren looked at the star hammer beast cub that had countless cracks on its scales. He was so shocked that he was tongue-tied. Lei Ming also looked at this scene in disbelief. He knew that Senior Mo's strength was unfathomable. But the move just now did not use a lot of energy. Just that little bit of energy was able to produce such a huge power. This was really shocking. How did he do it? At the scene, Emo said to Leiren, who was dumbstruck for a long time, "This move is called Lightning Dragon 9 Transformations. The move I just used was the first transformation. If you can learn it, it won't be a problem for you to challenge someone 5 levels above you." Huh. Leiren was stunned. Challenge someone 5 levels above you? Did this have to be so King exaggerated? Emo continued, "Of course, Lightning Dragon 9 Transformations is not something that can be mastered overnight. But even if you master half of it, it will be enough to defeat someone 2 or 3 levels above you." Leiren's heart skipped a beat. What if I master it to the 9th transformation? When Emo heard this, he recalled that he had accidentally destroyed the entire earth and blasted Happy into smithereens. Even his own body was blasted into smithereens. He coughed dryly and said, Cough cough about this, you can talk about it after you master it to the third transformation. Lei Ren probed again, then Big Brother Mo, which transformation are you at now? Mo sure smiled. You might know if you have the chance in the future. Lei Ren saw that he could not get an answer and could only ask. If I can really master it, then Brother Mo, I will be indebted to you. In the future, what's mine will be yours and what's yours will still be yours. Our Lei family will be forever grateful to you. Mo sure shook his head and said, I just saw that you have some talent and was inspired to teach you a move or two. As for whether you are grateful or not, I don't care. Then, under Mo sure's guidance, Lei Ren began to practice the first transformation of Lightning Dragon 9 transformations. Of course, Mo sure would not teach him the true Lightning Dragon 9 transformations. Taking a step back, even if Mo sure taught Lei Ren all the Thunder Dragon's 9 transformations, it would be very difficult for Lei Ren to master the 9th transformation in his lifetime. To be able to master the 5th transformation, he could be called a peerless genius. Moreover, the Lightning Dragon 9 transformations technique required the coordination of the Lightning Dragon 9 transformations technique in order to maximize his battle prowess. This practice lasted for a month. He had already missed the start of school. He had also completely missed the 2-month entrance exam after school started. The academy called Lei Ming 3 times and even said that if he did not come, they would revoke Lei Ren's enrollment. Lei Ming had a wider network and finally persuaded the academy's teachers to give Lei Ren a 3-month-long leave. Lei Ren could be considered the first person to apply for a long leave right after entering the academy. After a month, although Lei Ren had not completely grasped the essence of the Lightning Dragon 9 transformations, his control of the lightning attribute energy had completely surpassed his father Lei Ming due to his continuous practice of the Lightning Dragon 9 transformations. He could use the lightning attribute energy to condense long swords, long sabers, long spears, long whips, etc. He could also condense a lightning dragon. However, the lightning dragon that he condensed would sometimes lack a wing or a leg. Sometimes, it would even be a headless lightning dragon. Compared to Mo sure's lightning dragon first transformation, its power was naturally much weaker. It was naturally impossible to attract the clouds in the sky. Mo sure could blast down a 1,000-meter tall mountain. At most, he could blast it down 300 meters. But even so, it was enough for him to defeat enemies 2 or 3 levels higher. If he was to deal with the Star Hammer Beast Cub, he would be able to kill it in one strike. If he was to deal with a 140-year Star Beast Cub that was 2 levels higher than him, even if he was unable to kill it in one strike, he would be able to make it turn around and flee. Chapter 582. With Lei Ren's current strength, if he used his full strength in his human form, it wouldn't be a problem for him to defeat opponents 2 levels above him. If the opponent was 3 levels above him and was slightly stronger, it would at most be a draw. If the opponent was slightly weaker, he could still barely win. Next, Mo sure taught him how to condense energy in various parts of his body to attack enemies in his dragon form. This practice lasted for another half a month. During this time, Lei Ren would often complain. Mo sure always used various methods to provoke him. Lei Ren had no choice but to grit his teeth and persevere. At this time, Lei Ren could already begin to condense energy in various parts of his body. He was no longer a simpleton who only knew how to release energy in battle. And he had barely grasped the Thunder Dragon first change. One strike could blow down a 500-meter tall mountain. In a one-on-one fight, it wouldn't be a problem for him to defeat opponents 3 levels above him. The reason why Mo sure was so patient and taught here for 3 months. It was because the matter of him destroying the laboratory was still under investigation. So he stayed here to avoid the limelight. When the limelight was more or less over, he would go out and cause trouble. At this time, Lei Ren's combat skills and experience were about the same. The only thing he lacked was actual combat. A real battle that would see blood. On this day when Lei Ren was practicing, Mo sure's dragon will suddenly detected 2 groups of people fighting more than 800 kilometers away. To be exact, 2 groups of dragons were fighting. It should be a group of dragons passing by on an aircraft. They were attacked by another group of dragons flying out of the forest. These 2 groups of dragons added up to about 50. The highest level among them was a 5th-level evolved dragon, and the lowest was an ordinary 8th-level dragon. It seemed that one group of dragons was robbing the other. In the Cloud Sea Star, some dragons were lazy and didn't do anything. They gathered together and specialized in robbing the passing dragons. These dragons were called dragon bandits. The officials of the Cloud Sea Star had once put in a lot of effort to control the dragon bandits, but because the forest on this planet was huge, the dragon bandits could just hide in the forest and it would be very difficult to catch them again. So it wasn't easy to control them. Mo sure found that this group of dragon bandits had already killed more than a dozen dragon bandits passing by and left with their dragon coins and other valuables. Mo sure glanced at Lei Ren, who was practicing the Thunder Dragon's 9 transformations, and said, "Let's go, I'll take you to have some fun." Lei Ren was overjoyed. He couldn't help but swallow his saliva. "After staying in this forest for 3 months, my mouth is so bland. Finally, I can eat something good." Mo sure didn't say much. He took Lei Ren and flew towards the location of the dragon bandits as fast as he could. The flight lasted for more than 2 hours. 2 hours later, they arrived at the mountain where the dragon bandits were hiding. Lei Ren asked in confusion, "Big brother Mo, is there a restaurant here?" Mo sure pointed to the dense forest on top of the mountain and said, "That's right. There are people in the forest." Lei Ren was delighted and said, "Then let's go down." Then he jumped down. Soon they arrived at the dense forest. There was a cave in the middle of the forest. There seemed to be the faint sound of human voices coming from the cave. Lei Ren turned around and asked Mo sure, "Big brother Mo, is this the place? It doesn't look like a place that can make good food." Mo sure smiled and said, "Not all restaurants that can make good dishes are big. Sometimes small families can also make good food." Lei Ren nodded and immediately walked towards the entrance of the cave. Then he said, "If there's anything good, take it out." He said it in a commanding tone. It was no wonder. He had been a playboy since he was young, and everyone around him coaxed and spoiled him. Since he was young, his words were evidence of orders. Mo sure almost laughed in his heart. This guy was so innocent that he was cute. Soon, someone inside heard the sound and rushed out. It was 3 burly men. The 3 of them were just ordinary dragons. When they saw Lei Ren and Mo sure, they couldn't help but be angry. "Damn it, it's always been grandpas who steal other people's food. No dragon dares to steal grandpa's food. Today is the first time you've done so." Mo sure hurriedly pointed at Lei Ren. "It's not me, it's him." The 3 burly men saw that although Lei Ming's clothes were dirty, they could tell that they were expensive. They were secretly delighted. Then they scolded Mo sure, "I don't care who you are. Since you're here, leave your dog head." With that, the 3 of them attacked Mo sure and Lei Ren together. Seeing this, Lei Ren glanced at Mo sure. Mo sure said, "Looks like we've encountered the dragon bandits." Lei Ren finally understood. He immediately turned around, his eyes wide with anger. When encountering the dragon bandits, it was either you die or I live. Although he had never fought with the dragon bandits, he had fought many star beast cubs in the past 3 months. So he wasn't afraid at all. With a flash, he dodged the attacks of the 3 dragon bandits. His right arm turned into a dragon claw and condensed energy. Swish, he slashed across. The 3 dragon bandits were directly cut in half at the waist. 3 dragons, 6 pieces. Blood splattered all over his body. Under the lightning attack, the dragon bandit cells were also greatly damaged. After being cut in half, their recovery speed was also much slower. Mo sure said, "Now's the time." It was Lei Ren's first time killing a dragon. He suppressed his disgust and kept waving his sharp claws. He didn't stop until the 3 dragon bandits were cut into pieces. Even if the dragon race had an abnormal recovery ability, it was impossible for them to recover after being cut into pieces. Just as he finished, Lei Ren turned around and bent over. Ugh! He almost vomited all his internal organs out. After all, it was his first time killing a dragon. It was normal for him to not adapt physically. Mo sure chuckled in his heart. He still had to get used to it. However, after adapting to the environment here, he would be much faster than his classmates when he entered the school. This could be considered as winning at the starting line. Just as he was thinking to himself, a system notification suddenly appeared in his mind. Frowny face dragon slayer. 224,500. Mo sure couldn't help but be overjoyed when he heard this notification. Previously, his dragon slayer points were only 221. Now it had increased by 3. In other words, for every giant dragon Lei Ren killed, he would get the corresponding dragon slayer points. The system's actions were too humane. The system stood up at the right time and showed its existence. Frowny face. After the host has practiced any giant dragon technique or battle technique for at least 10 days, the system will recognize the host as a teacher-student relationship. The giant dragons killed by the host students are also counted as killed by the host, and the corresponding dragon slayer points can be obtained. And this is good. With students, he wouldn't have to kill those giant dragons himself in the future. The giant dragons they killed would be counted as his dragon slayer points, It seemed like he should take in a few more students in the future. He was still too strong now and had to slowly collect Dragon Slayer points to increase his strength. And if he took in some students and let them kill giant dragons, it wouldn't arouse the suspicion of other giant dragons. Chapter 583. After Lei Rin killed the 3 dragon bandits, he looked at the bloody scene in front of him and felt his stomach churn. Ugh! He vomited out the New Year's dinner. At this moment, the dragon bandits in the cave heard the fighting sounds outside. They felt that something was wrong and stood out one by one. Among these dragon bandits, the one with the highest realm was a rank 5 evolved dragon. There were also 5 rank 1 and 2 evolved dragons. The remaining 40 or so were all rank 8 and 9 ordinary dragons. They came outside the cave. They saw 2 people standing outside the cave. A guy in black clothes was standing not far away, looking at them calmly. The other guy was covered in blood and was bent over, vomiting non-stop. Not far away from his feet, there were 3 piles of blurred flesh. They immediately understood what had happened. "How dare you kill my brother, you're courting death." One of the Type 1 evolved dragons roared and pounced towards Lei Rin. Lei Rin was vomiting and didn't even have time to wipe his mouth. But when he heard the rank 1 evolved dragon pouncing over, his right arm instantly transformed into a dragon claw. At the same time, the dragon claw contained the power of lightning. Whoosh! With one strike, the rank 1 evolved dragon was directly split into 2 from head to toe. When he tried to heal himself, Lei Rin's sharp claws waved and turned him into meat paste in a short time. This time he didn't vomit again. He roared at the other dragon bandits like a madman, "Come on!" The lower-level dragon bandits all looked at each other. What a joke! A rank 1 evolved dragon was instantly killed by a claw. If they still went up, wouldn't they be courting death? That bandit leader was the strongest rank 5 evolved dragon among these dragon bandits. When he saw this scene, his anger rushed to the top of his head. "Preposterous! Die for me!" As he said that, a flame sword condensed in his right hand and directly pierced at Lei Rin. Although Lei Rin was 3 ranks lower than him, he was a thunder attribute dragon after all. In terms of speed, he was already comparable to the bandit leader. He dodged this attack and condensed lightning in his right hand. However, his lightning didn't condense into a form. Instead, it looked very messy. The bandit leader snorted coldly. Most people would panic when they encountered a thunder attribute dragon. After all, the thunder attribute was known for its high explosive power and destructive power. However, he had a wealth of combat experience. He knew the weakness of the thunder attribute. Its energy was unstable and it was difficult to condense and take form. This prevented the lightning attribute energy from unleashing its full power. Therefore, his flaming sword did not stop and continued to stab at Lei Rin's vital points. City Lord's Mansion. Due to the obstruction of the forest, Madame Lei and Lei Ming were unable to see what their son and Senior Mo were doing in the forest. They were all a little anxious. The bandit leader's attacks were extremely fierce. While Lei Rin was in the process of condensing the lightning attribute energy, he did not have the time to release it. At this time, Lei Rin had already jumped out of the forest in order to avoid that guy's attack. The bandit leader chased after them in the air. Madame Lei's heart skipped a beat when she saw her son being attacked so fiercely by a fire attribute giant dragon. Lei Ming's heart trembled. Even the Class 3 or Class 4 dragons under his command might not be able to withstand such a violent attack. However, at this time he was too far away to help. He could only comfort his wife and himself. "With Senior Mo by my side, my son will be fine." At this moment, the two of them were constantly moving in the air. It seemed that Lei Rin could only parry and had no strength to fight back. The dragon bandits below also jumped onto the branches and watched the battle in the air. Seeing that their boss was completely suppressing that guy and was about to take him down in minutes, they raised their fists and shouted, "Kid, you dare to challenge our boss? Aren't you courting death? This guy's level is at most Class 2 or Class 3. He actually dared to challenge our boss 2 or 3 levels above him. Hee. There's a saying that a newborn calf is not afraid of a dragon. It's probably referring to this guy. He doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. This guy, he can't even condense his energy and actually dares to challenge our boss. He's simply tired of living." Just as they were discussing, in the sky, the unstable lightning attribute energy in Lei Ren's hand suddenly swung at the bandit leader. However, it was unknown whether it was because the lightning attribute energy was too unstable or because this guy was too weak. Under this attack, the lightning attribute energy did not hit at all. Instead, it flew past Lei Ren's body and flew directly into the sky. The dragon bandits below could not help but laugh. This guy is here to be funny, isn't he? He's not just funny. I don't know where this funny guy came from. He saw that we're not having any fun hiding in the deep mountains and forests, so he's here to relieve our boredom. Seeing this scene, the bandit leader could not help but laugh. A kid like you dares to challenge the heroes of our Dragon Gate Mountain? However, at this moment, everyone was stunned. After the lightning attribute energy was swung out, it actually quickly expanded in the sky. Then it condensed into a lightning attribute dragon. This lightning attribute dragon was 100 meters long and was surrounded by lightning. It looked extremely powerful. Especially when it appeared, a few clouds in the sky seemed to be faintly stirred. The bandit leader's heart skipped a beat. Before the thought could finish flashing through his mind, the dragon in the sky suddenly swooped down at him. The bandit leader knew that this was not good and was about to dodge. However, that dragon was a lightning attribute dragon. Its speed was far faster than any other dragon. Almost instantly, it blasted onto the bandit leader. A glaring blue-white light instantly lit up. Dozens of lightning bolts spread out from the bandit leader's body and blasted onto the dragon bandits on the tree below. Crack, crack, crack. Almost every tree that the dragon bandits were on was directly split into two and caught on fire. These dragon bandits were all struck to the ground. As for the bandit leader in the sky, he was like a black stone that had been burned into black smoke and fell diagonally from the sky with black smoke. The bandit leader was directly killed and did not get up again. As for the other dragon bandits, although they were still breathing, they were not breathing anymore. With one attack, an opponent that was 3 ranks higher was instantly killed. When Madame Lei and Lei Ming saw this scene, they were greatly shocked. Their son was already so strong? Although they had watched their son being trained by Senior Mo for the past few months, they also knew that the power of this move was extremely strong. However, when their son really used this move and killed an opponent that was 3 ranks higher than him, the couple still felt that it was unbelievable. Especially when dealing with a Star Beast Cub and a dragon were 2 completely different concepts. A Star Beast Cub's self-healing ability was not as strong as a dragon's. It was really very difficult to kill a giant dragon. Sometimes, the speed at which you hurt it might not be as fast as its self-healing speed. And now, their son had instantly killed an opponent that was 3 ranks higher than him with 1 attack. While they were shocked, they were also very grateful to Emo Sure. Chapter 584. Lei Ren's performance shocked both his parents. Just 3 months ago, their son was still a good-for-nothing who needed bodyguards to follow him everywhere and only knew how to bully others with numbers. Now that 3 months had passed, their son could actually kill an opponent who was 3 levels above him in 1 strike. And it wasn't just an instant kill. He could even bully others with fewer people. The bandit leader was instantly killed by their son's attack. And the rest of the dragon bandits were all knocked to the ground. All of them were rolling and screaming. And their son's huge change was all because of Emo Chantian. The 2 of them only felt that they would never be able to repay Emo Chantian's kindness in their lives. It wasn't just them. Even Lei Ren himself was shocked. He had just mastered the first transformation of the Thunder Dragon 9 transformations and was still a little unfamiliar with it. But in the end it was so powerful with 1 strike. This was really out of his expectations. He couldn't help but look at his hands. After a moment he raised his head and looked at Emo Sure. Emo Sure, however, was somewhat resentful. What are you waiting for? Wait for them to get up and beat you up? Lei Ren's energy was completely exhausted after that strike. Although he still had stamina, his body was very weak. But Emo Sure had no intention of helping him. He could only grit his teeth and force his weak body to the side of a dragon bandit. No. Because the dragon bandit was struck by lightning energy, his cells were greatly damaged. He couldn't even get up. He looked at Lei Ren in horror. His desire to live made him beg for mercy. Please, don't kill me. Please, I can give you anything. Just don't kill me. Lei Ren used his dragon claws to support himself on the ground. Looking at this person's eyes, he hesitated. Although he was the #1 good-for-nothing in 1,000 miles, he had killed people before. But he had ordered his servants to do it. Before today he had never killed anyone with his own hands. He had killed 4 just now, but he didn't look them in the eye. Now, facing this dragon bandit who had no strength to resist, looking at his desperate eyes at the last moment of his life, he couldn't bear it. Actually, his nature wasn't bad. It was just that his parents had spoiled him too much since he was young. If he liked something, he would just take it. If he didn't, he would snatch it. In his mind, all of this was natural. Now, facing the desperate eyes of a stranger before his death, The human compassion in his heart was finally awakened. The dragon claw on his right arm slowly lowered. He turned around and looked at Emosher. Big brother can you let him go? Madame Lei, who was watching the live broadcast through the screen, turned her head to Lei Ming and said, "My son is so kind." However, Lei Ren shook his head helplessly. Having been on the battlefield before, he deeply understood that being merciful to the enemy was being cruel to one's comrades. He had seen how many people had killed their comrades because they had been too soft on the enemy. The battlefield was not a charity hall. There was no room for pity for the enemy. When would his foolish son understand this logic? At the same time, he also looked at Emosher. Would Senior Emo be merciful to his enemies? At the scene, Emosher looked at Lei Ren without any objections. The fact that Lei Ren could maintain a little bit of compassion meant that he had not lost his dragon nature. But Emosher had to let him know that mercy was not something that could be used casually. Thinking of this, he shrugged. "Do as you wish." With that, he turned around. At the same time, he moved his mind. Long Nian controlled the hand of the dragon bandit and pulled out a dagger from his waist. The dragon bandit was terrified. It was not him who was moving, but some force controlling his body to move. He shook his head repeatedly. No. However, his body had already gotten up uncontrollably and stabbed towards the dragon bandit. At this moment, Lei Ren turned his head to ask Emosher for instructions. When Madame Lei saw this, she immediately exclaimed, "No." Lei Ming also jumped to his feet in shock. Pooh! The specially refined dagger pierced Lei Ren's heart from the back with a thud. "Ah!" Lei Ren screamed and turned around. At the same time, he was surprised and angry. What? He had already decided to let him go. Why did he have to harm him? In his anger, his body, which had been exhausted of energy, seemed to be filled with energy in an instant. The dragon claw instantly swept across the dragon bandit's head. Swish! The dragon bandit's head was directly cut into 5 pieces. Although Lei Ren was stabbed, with the tenacious vitality of a giant dragon, as long as this degree of injury did not continue to worsen, it would not be life-threatening. Lei Ren did not wait for the headless body of the dragon bandit to fall to the ground and waved his dragon claws. Swish, 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 swish. The dragon bandit died instantly. In his anger, Lei Ren came to the side of another dragon bandit. And oh! In his terror, the dragon bandit uttered a sentence in English. Swish! What answered him was Lei Ren's crazy killing. Another dragon bandit. "Ya made." Swish! What answered him was still Lei Ren's dragon claws. In just 5 minutes, all 50 of the dragon bandits were killed. Only then did Lei Ren sit weakly among the corpses. He seemed to be a little delirious. Lei Ren pulled out the dagger from his back and his wound quickly healed. Lei Ren looked at Emosher in confusion. "Why?" Emosher replied, "Because you are enemies. There should be no mercy between enemies. To pity your enemy is to be cruel to yourself. Your mercy to the enemy may cause you to lose your life. Even your friends, your woman, and your parents may be harmed." Lei Ren's eyes seemed to have regained some clarity. Emosher knew that he had understood, so he did not say anything more. Let him think about it carefully. Madame Lei heaved a sigh of relief when she saw that her son was fine. But even so, her heart still ached when her son had been stabbed in the back with a dagger. Her son had probably never been scratched since he was young. When had he ever suffered such a serious injury? But Lei Ming saw the trick at this moment. "Senior Mo did it on purpose." Madame Lei was puzzled. "On purpose? What do you mean?" Lei Ming replied, "Those dragon bandits had clearly lost their ability to fight. How could they suddenly attack again? This is very strange. Also, my son's back was facing the dragon bandits, but Senior Mo was facing the dragon bandits. He clearly saw that the dragon bandits were about to attack my son, but he did not warn me." Madame Lei also thought of this and said, "He did it to teach my son a lesson?" Lei Ming replied, "That's right. If it was just a reminder with my son's personality, he might forget after a few days. But Senior Mo made him hurt and bleed, so he will remember it even more clearly. He will never forget this bloody lesson in his life." Chapter 585. Lei Ming and Madame Lei discovered Emosher's intentions. This made the two of them extremely grateful to Emosher. "If I were to teach him this, I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to do it in 1,000 or 2 years. But Mr. Emo only used a few seconds to make our son remember this." Madame Lei nodded. "Senior Emo is really an expert." Lei Ming nodded as well. But at the same time he had a deeper understanding of Emosher. Senior Mo didn't seem to care about anything at all. But one must not underestimate his shrewdness because of this. Just from this incident alone, one could see how shrewd he was. Because of this, Lei Ming became even more cautious of Mo Sure. With Senior Mo's shrewdness, if he had any ill intentions towards him, it was very likely that he would be able to see through it. Then the entire Lei family would be finished. Thinking of this, he immediately shouted, "Men! Immediately send an order to the clansmen in Cloud Sea City to treat Senior Mo with extra respect. If anyone dares to have any ill intentions, they will be killed immediately." When the servant heard this, he couldn't help but shudder. Although the patriarch was very strict with the clansmen, he had never said that they would be killed. This time he actually gave such an order. It was obvious how much the patriarch respected Senior Mo. He had to be careful when dealing with Senior Mo in the future. At the scene, Mo Sure didn't move immediately. Instead, he waited for Lei Ren's energy to fully recover before flying into the air with him. However, their flying speed wasn't fast. Mo Sure was waiting for Lei Ren to fully recover. Although his body had recovered, his mind hadn't. After all, it was his first time killing someone, and he had been stabbed by the enemy when he had already planned to let the enemy go. He definitely wouldn't be able to recover in a short period of time. At this moment, Lei Ren was no longer as cheerful as he usually was. He followed behind Mo Sure in silence. Mo Sure didn't say much to him and waited for him to recover. Finally, on the second day, Lei Ren recovered a little. He began to take the initiative to speak. On the fourth day, Lei Ren had completely recovered. He was still as rich and imposing as before. He was still as profligate as before. But Mo Sure knew that he had changed. His mentality was much stronger than before. His experience in dealing with enemies was far more abundant than the average student of the academy. He had already experienced life and death and had experienced blood. He had already killed a few hundred-star beasts. Compared to those students, he had already won at the starting line. Finally, Mo Sure's group arrived at Ocean of Cloud City. As expected of the main city of Cloud Sea Star. If it had to be described with a few words, then it would be grand, magnificent, 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 and extraordinary. From afar, it looked like a path that led straight to the clouds. Flying along this path, they passed through the clouds and saw the rolling sea of clouds. A huge city floated above the sea of clouds. This was the main city of Cloud Sea Planet. This reminded Mo Sure of the heavenly palace in Journey to the West that he had seen when he was young. They flew close to the clouds. When they got closer, they noticed that the city was extremely huge. To what extent? It was so huge that even with Mo Sure's eyesight, he couldn't see the end of it. There was already a butler from the Lei clan waiting for them at the city gate that was over 10 kilometers tall and 5 kilometers wide. When he saw Mo Sure and Lei Ren arrive, he quickly flew over to welcome them. Then he brought Mo Sure all the way to the Watermoon Villa by a lake in the city. Every habitable planet had a powerful Star Lord. The place where the Star Lord lived was called the Star Lord Mansion. The Watermoon Villa by the lake wasn't far from the Star Lord Mansion. It could be said that this was the center of the entire city. Every inch of land was worth its weight in gold. Moreover, this was a villa by the lake. It could be said that it was located in the center of the city and wasn't noisy. It was said that just the rent for the villa here was 50,000 dragon coins every month. Ordinary rich families couldn't afford it. Even if they could afford it, they didn't have the means to rent it. Actually, the Lei Ming clan was a little strained to afford it. After all, they had just taken over the two clans' business and needed cash flow. But they couldn't neglect Senior Mo. So they chose a place like this. Moreover, it was close to the academy. Their son could choose to stay in the academy and live here. He could also frequently receive Senior Mo's guidance. So they endured the pain of renting this place. This villa was very big, over 1,000 square meters. A swimming pool and a garden were all basic amenities. Mo Sure lived here and no one disturbed him. The next day, the butler brought Lei Ren to the Cloud Sea Academy to register. Mo Sure and Lei Ren had originally set off a month before the start of school. But now, school had already started for 3 months. This meant that Lei Ren had completely missed the opening ceremony and the 2 months of wilderness training. One had to know that the opening ceremony and the 2 months of wilderness training were very important in the eyes of many people. During the opening ceremony, the dragons' levels would be tested. They would be divided into classes according to their levels. If they came late, they would be assigned to the worst class, Class 0. Class 0 meant that they had nothing and couldn't do anything. So they were called Class 0. Class 0's teaching resources were much worse than the other classes. And the 2 months of wilderness training after school started was even more important. Many people called this the first lesson of school. Not only could they learn a lot, but they could also show their strength to their classmates and teachers. If the foundation here was good, it would be very convenient for them in the future. Lei Ren missed this and could only report to Class 0. The butler sent him to Class 0 and left the academy. Lei Ren entered the classroom. There weren't many people in the classroom, about 20 or so. He glanced around and saw that there were only empty seats at the back. He immediately went to the back and sat down. Many classes with bad morals had a tradition of bullying new students. Class 0 was no exception. Because their levels were relatively low during the level test, most of them were only rank 1 evolved dragons. So they were assigned here. The Tier 1 dragons all had mocking smiles on their faces at this moment. They came to Lei Ren's side and surrounded him. "You're the guy who didn't report for school and skipped 2 months of classes, right? You're quite arrogant," a yellow-haired dragon said. Lei Ren glanced at them and chuckled. "So what if I am?" The yellow-haired dragon also laughed. "If you are, kneel down and kowtow to us 3 times. When you see us in the future, call us Big Brother, understand?" Lei Ren also looked at these people with great interest. "What if I say no?" The yellow-haired dragon nodded. "Interesting. Then I'll tell you the answer now." Then he nodded to the people around him. The dragons immediately reached out and pressed Lei Ren's head. They wanted to hit Lei Ren's head on the table. However, before their hands could touch Lei Ren's hair, bang 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 bang, the 5 dragons smashed the windows and flew out of the window. They landed at the feet of the teacher who had just arrived for class. Chapter 586. Crash, crash, crash. The sound of 3 windows shattering could be heard. 5 figures flew out of the window. The other 17 students in the class were waiting to watch a good show. But when they saw this scene, they all stood up. They looked at Lei Ren in shock. Lei Ren was satisfied with their expressions and nodded. He stretched out his right hand and tapped the ground with his index finger. "In this class," he pointed at himself with his thumb, "I'm the boss from now on." All the students were stunned. They looked at the 5 students who had just gotten up. Among the 5 of them, the yellow-haired one was the highest. He was a rank 2 evolved dragon. He was the boss of the class. But now, someone took the lead and shouted, Boss." With someone taking the lead, the rest all followed suit. Boss, boss, boss. Lei Ren nodded in satisfaction and waved his hand. Let's go, let's go." Everyone returned to their seats. At the same time, the Class 0's instructor, Yu Yanran, was a little late for class. He was hurrying over. But at this moment there were a few rustling sounds. Then 5 figures flew out of the sky. They just happened to fly under her feet. She couldn't help but be stunned. These were the 5 tyrants of the class. What was going on today? But no matter what, these 5 guys must have caused trouble. Anger surged in her heart. "You 5 are courting death." As she spoke, she waved her energy. The 5 guys were involuntarily sent flying hundreds of meters into the air. A moment later they screamed and fell from the sky. Boom 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 boom, the 5 of them all crashed to the ground. In the distance, the teaching director saw the 5 students in the school uniform flying in the air. He shook his head helplessly. Instructor Yu was teaching the students a lesson again. Instructor Yu was young and beautiful. She was passionate about people. If you only saw her at first glance, she would definitely be a dream girl. But in the school, not a single instructor chased after her. Because her temper wasn't good and she was quite violent. Just like now, throwing students hundreds of meters into the air and then throwing them back down was nothing out of the ordinary for her. Who would dare to chase after such an instructor? But then again, only a teacher like her would be able to keep Class 0 in check. After Yu Yanran finished dealing with the yellow-haired guy and his gang, she stormed into the classroom. After the other guys got up, they didn't dare to complain and went to the classroom one after another. Everyone thought that the biggest bully in Class 0 was Huang Mao. Actually, very few people knew that Yu Yanran was the biggest bully in Class 0. When Yu Yanran entered the classroom, the originally noisy classroom suddenly became solemn. Yu Yanran glanced at the dozen or so students in the classroom. In the end, his gaze fell on the newcomer, Lei Ren. Who did it? She stared at Lei Ren intently. Lei Ren had been a playboy since he was young, so he didn't care about her. He said directly, "They wanted to bully me, but in the end, I bullied them instead. Is there a problem?" Yu Yanran looked at Lei Ren and snorted coldly in her heart. It seemed that this little fellow was also a troublemaker. "You came at the right time. I specialize in dealing with troublesome people." Thinking of this, she strode over to Lei Ren with her slender legs. It's not that there's a problem, it's that you're in trouble, big trouble. As she spoke, her right hand reached out to grab Lei Ren's shoulder. Lei Ren subconsciously dodged, easily dodging the claw. The students in the class were shocked. Teacher Yu was a rank 4 giant dragon. Moreover, she used a surprise attack. This was her usual method. Among the students in the class, whether male or female, which one of them hadn't suffered at her hands before? No, it wasn't a loss but a miserable defeat. This newcomer was at most a rank 2 giant dragon. Moreover, he had caused such a big trouble the moment he arrived. When Teacher Yu was angry, even if she didn't use her full strength, she would at least use 30 to 50% of her strength. Even if it was 30 to 50% of her strength, the students wouldn't be able to withstand it. She didn't expect that this newcomer would be able to dodge it so easily. Yu Yanran was also slightly surprised. However, with her violent temper, this little surprise quickly turned into anger. Her right arm turned into a flaming dragon claw and chopped down at Lei Ren. Lei Ren's right arm also turned into a dragon claw with lightning coiling around it. He dodged the dragon claw in an instant. With a strange twist of his body, he appeared behind Yu Yanran. At the same time, his foot also kicked towards Yu Yanran's back without any hesitation. Yu Yanran had a violent temper, but Lei Ren didn't have a good temper either. Yu Yanran had never seen such a nimble movement before. She couldn't dodge at all. She only had time to turn around and cross her arms in front of her body. Bang! An impact force suddenly came. Yu Yanran immediately retreated. The tables and chairs in the classroom were knocked over. The group of students quickly jumped up to prevent themselves from being affected. At the same time, they looked at Lei Ren with extreme surprise. This guy's strength was so strong? Not to mention that he was late for school by a few months. The first lesson was to hit a student and a teacher. This was going to turn the sky upside down. Yu Yanran's pretty eyes were filled with anger as she roared, "Brat, you're courting death." After saying that, a fiery red energy condensed into a flaming giant hammer in her right hand. There were also dozens of thick and hard spikes on the hammer. This was Yu Yanran's weapon. Lei Ren didn't hold back. Since young, I was the one who bullied others. No one dared to bully me. How could I be bullied by a woman now? Above the right claw, streaks of lightning continuously crackled. In the previous 2 rounds, he had already felt the strength of this woman. She was only a rank 4 evolved dragon. And if she went all out, killing a rank 5 evolved dragon would be a cinch. How could he be afraid of this woman? When the 2 of them were at daggers drawn, an old man who looked to be in his 60s passed by the door. Seeing the situation inside, he helplessly shook his head. "Teacher Yu, you should also restrain your fiery temper." After saying that, an invisible long way brazenly spread out. Yu Yanran and Lei Ren were suppressed by this long way. The 2 of them suddenly felt an inexplicable chill from the bottom of their hearts. The energy in their hands also quickly disappeared. Yu Yanran turned to look at the old man and said, "Dean, I'm educating students. It's not good for you to suddenly intervene like this." The old man who was called the dean glanced at Lei Ren and then looked at Yu Yanran. He couldn't help but shake his head and said, "Education also needs to pay attention to the method. If you act rashly, it will only make their rebellious heart stronger." After saying that, he no longer paid attention to Yu Yanran and slowly left. At this time, the dean's unspoken words were, "If I don't intervene, I'm afraid you will be beaten to death. That guy is not as simple as you see on the surface." Chapter 587. After the dean left, Yu Yanran raised her eyebrows, still unwilling to let go. She took 3 steps with her slender legs and arrived in front of Lei Ren. She stared at Lei Ren with fire in her eyes. An ordinary student would have panicked when being stared at by a teacher like this. But Lei Ren had been fighting with those star beast cubs in the forest for several months. Why would he be afraid of a woman's gaze? He raised his head and stared at the woman who was half a head taller than him. The atmosphere between the 2 was tense again. The students in the class were so scared that they didn't dare to speak. Even the yellow-haired guy and the other 4 were standing quietly by the wall, not daring to move. The 2 stared at each other for more than 10 seconds. Finally, Yu Yanran burst into laughter. "Ah, kid good, I like you. What's your name?" Everyone was stunned. This turn of events was a bit sudden. The yellow-haired guy and the others also opened their eyes wide. It turned out that the teacher liked this. If they had known earlier, they would have done the same. They wouldn't have been scolded like dogs by the teacher now. However, they quickly rejected their own thoughts. The teacher liked this, but you had to have the strength to do so. Otherwise, the teacher would probably send you flying out of the window. How could they play this game? Lei Ren was also full of question marks. What's wrong with this woman? So strange. But since he knew that she was a teacher and her attitude was so good, if he continued to ignore her, it would be a bit unreasonable. He immediately replied, Lei Ren? Yu Yanran couldn't help but laugh. Lei Ren? This name is very shocking. From now on you'll be my confidant. In this school if anyone bullies you just tell them my name, I'll protect you. Study hard, I have high hopes for you. Lei Ren's face showed a somewhat stiff smile. What confidant, what protect you? Why did it sound like the language of street gangsters? Could it be that this tutor was a gangster? Yu Yanran patted Lei Ren's shoulder and said, Sit down and tell me, why did you come 3 months late? Lei Ren smiled bitterly and shook his head. Because something happened at home. He didn't want to tell her that he had been training in the forest with Brother Mo for 4 months. Yu Yanran nodded, and it doesn't matter if you don't want to say it. 3 days later, it will be the mock exam for the first years of our academy. When the other students in the class heard the words mock exam, their expressions turned gloomy. The so-called test was because some people among the dragons had suggested that levels did not represent combat power. Therefore, when they entered the school after their grades were tested and they were divided into classes, there was also a mock exam. The classes that performed outstandingly in the mock exam would be able to obtain more resources. Although level didn't represent combat power 90% of the time, it did. During the entrance exam, Class 0 was the worst class in the entire first grade. Naturally, their combat strength was the weakest. What would they use to compete with the other classes in the mock exam? And if they didn't get a good ranking, the teaching resources they would receive would definitely be the worst. But these people did not include Lei Ren. Lei Ren glanced at these people and shook his head. I don't care if it's a mock test or a mock test, I'm going to get first place. All the students looked at Lei Ren in surprise. Getting first place in the mock exam was already bearable, but what the hell was a mock test? Yu Yanran patted Mo Shi's shoulder and gave him a thumbs up. Good. That's exactly what I want. PFFF. Many of the students present almost spat out. Instructor, do you think it's appropriate for an instructor to call himself, this old lady, in front of so many students? In the next 2 days Class 0 was much more peaceful. Because Lei Ren had displayed extraordinary strength on his first day at the academy, the students of Class 0 naturally regarded him as their boss. Even that yellow-haired student regarded Lei Ren as his boss. At this moment, Mo Shi was not in a position to cause trouble. At the very least, it wouldn't be too late to cause trouble after he understood the entire planet and the entire Myriad Dragon Starfield. From what he knew, the entire Myriad Dragon Starfield had a total of 3,600 planets with life. It was divided into the East, the Eastern Imperial Region 650 planets with life. The West, the Western Flame Region 650 planets with life. The South, the Southern Ming Region 650 planets with life. The North, the Big Dipper region 650 planets with life. The largest region was the Central Starfield, with a total of 999 planets with life. Some people might think, doesn't this add up to 3,599 planets with life? There's still one planet left. Mo Shi also wondered. However, he couldn't find any explanation on the internet. It seemed that 3,600 was an imaginary number. If you took it seriously you would lose. While Mo Shi was studying the entire Myriad Dragon Starfield, Shanghai Academy's first-year mock exam had begun. All first-year students had to participate in the mock exam. Everyone's student number would be used to draw lots. There were a total of 7 first-year classes. The students of Class 1 had the best foundation. In the first 23 matches they had won all their matches. The second year's results were second. Class 5 was a dark horse ahead of Classes 3 and 4. The worst was of course Class 0. They had basically all failed in the previous matches. Instructor Yu Yanran shook her head repeatedly. Although she had a bad temper, the instructors of those classes didn't dare to make fun of her. However, when she saw the smiles on the instructors' faces, she couldn't help but feel angry. Naturally, she didn't treat the students in her class well. In fact, the students of Class 0 felt wronged in their hearts. Their levels were low during the test, and now they were taught a lesson. Moreover, they had to bear the ridicule of the other classes. They were angry but they didn't know who to vent it on. It wasn't until 11 o'clock that Lei Ren went on stage. His opponent was Class 2's Shui Miao. Shui Miao was a water-type dragon. Although she was only a rank 1 evolved dragon. Her control of water-type energy had reached the point of perfection. It was said that her strength was definitely at the top of Class 2. In Class 2 she was the big sister. When she went on stage, the students of Class 2 shouted loudly. One had to know that every one of them was an evolved dragon. Their shouts were terrifying. If this had happened on Earth, this shout would probably have scared many people to the point of peeing their pants. When Lei Ren went on stage, the students of Class 0 were also shouting, but after all, they were much weaker. Although Lei Ren had fought to a draw with the instructors had definitely held back. And when Lei Ren went against the students of other classes, they wouldn't hold back at all. Therefore, the students of Class 0 were a little nervous. On the other hand, Yu Yanran's gaze swept across the instructors. She was already looking forward to it. She was waiting to watch a good show. Chapter 588. In the entire first grade, Class 0 was the only one who hadn't won a single match. The entire school was laughing at Class 0. Although none of the teachers laughed at Yu Yanran, they didn't think much of Class 0. At this moment, Lei Ren finally stepped onto the stage. Amidst the sparse cheers of the students below the stage, he faced Shui Miao, who was seated opposite him. Shui Miao was also a proud and arrogant person. Although she was only at the first rank, her battle strength had increased over the past 2 months. She could easily defeat opponents at the third rank. Many teachers were optimistic that she would take the top 3 in this mock exam. Shui Miao faced Lei Ren and sneered, "Let's begin." Bang. As soon as her voice fell, she was sent flying. She flew far away from the stage. Her blue dress was already covered in dust. The fairy who had been floating like an immortal was now directly smashed into the dust. Whoosh! The thousands of students in the audience were in an uproar. One move. This guy defeated Shui Miao in one move. Damn, he's too strong. It's too fast. It's really too fast. I didn't even see what happened. Lei Ren retracted his fist and looked at the incredulous Shui Miao who had just gotten up. He cupped his fists and said, "Thank you for letting me win." Shui Miao had never suffered such a great humiliation. Since she was young, she had been the apple of everyone's eye. Because of her beauty, she was the goddess in the hearts of all the boys. Wherever she went, she was doted on. But now she met such a guy who blasted her out of the stage with one punch. She was in such a sorry state. How could she bear it? This guy is so ruthless. He's really ruthless. Some students couldn't help but exclaim. Yeah, she's such a beautiful girl. How could he do that? Of course, they didn't know that this was all because of Wang Yi's training for Lei Ren. After a few months in the forest, the naive Lei Ren learned that many things in the world weren't as they seemed. Often, the more beautiful something was, the more dangerous it was. The same was true for women. Emosure also let Lei Ren know that once a battle started, there was only one enemy. To be merciful to the enemy was to be cruel to oneself and the people one cared about. Therefore, even if Lei Ren was facing a beautiful woman, he would not show any mercy when he attacked. Some of the mentors at the side were pleasantly surprised by Lei Ren's student. To be able to reach this stage at such a young age, it was truly not simple. However, the tutor of Class 2 was unhappy. Although his temper was not as bad as Yu Yanran's, it was definitely not good either. Originally, their Class 2 Shui Miao was their class's biggest hope of getting into the top 3 this time. In the end, he was punched out of the ring. How could he tolerate this? Referee, this brat launched a sneak attack. Shui Miao wasn't prepared at all. He said, barely suppressing his anger. When Yu Yanran saw this, she couldn't take it anymore. Ah, not ready? She was the one who said it herself. If this isn't being prepared, then what is? Although the teacher of Class 2 had a bad temper, when she saw Yu Yanran's eyebrows furrow, she seemed to be about to flip out. He could only reluctantly swallow his anger. Not only did Yu Yanran have a bad temper, she also had a strong background. Not to mention a small tutor like him, even if the dean provoked Yu Yanran, as long as Yu Yanran said a word, the dean would probably suffer. Thinking of this, he flicked his sleeves and snorted coldly before returning to his seat. In the following battles, Lei Ren basically defeated his opponents with a single punch. He defeated the strongest of Class 3, Class 4, Class 5, Class 6 and Class 7 in a row. He advanced into the finals. In the finals, his opponent was Class 1's Poison Dragon, Du Faidu. This Du Faidu was very good at using poison. Previously, many experts were defeated by his poison. Many dragons' expressions changed when they heard about Du Faidu. Moreover, Du Faidu was the only rank 4 dragon among the first years. Facing such a guy, the other dragons could only flee. However, Lei Ren was not afraid at all. After all, he had learned how to deal with poison-type creatures from Emosure. Soon the competition began. Almost half of the students were cheering for Du Faidu. As for Lei Ren, the cheers were much softer. When the referee gestured for the start of the competition, Missouri sure arrived behind Du Faidu at lightning speed. Then he threw a punch. Bang! Du Faidu immediately flew to the side. Once again he flew out of the arena. When everyone present saw this scene, they were all shocked by Lei Ren's performance. A rank 2 dragon had instantly killed a rank 4 dragon. Moreover, it was Du Faidu, who was the strongest among the first years and had the highest chance of winning first place. Just how strong was this guy? All of the instructors present were shocked. A moment later, a tutor said, "With the combat strength this guy displayed, I'm afraid he's even stronger than some of our tutors." After saying this, the tutor felt that it was a little ridiculous. In the academy, some genius students in the upper grades were stronger than many of the teachers. This was very normal. After all, most of the tutors in the academy were around rank 5 evolved dragons. But how could a normal first-year student be stronger than a 5th-rank instructor? Was this a F***king joke? Actually, they had never seen Lei Ren instantly kill a rank 5 bandit leader. That was a real instant kill. While he was still in shock, the dean said to a handsome male instructor with long hair beside him, "That's right. Tutor Jean, you're one of the most outstanding tutors in our academy. What do you think of this guy?" Tutor Jean nodded, and he's a promising talent. Unfortunately, he's a little arrogant. If he's guided, he'll definitely become a great talent in the future. Then Tutor Jean, are you interested in teaching him? The dean asked. Tutor Jean waved his hand. Forget it. You want me to snatch him from Tutor you? I don't have the guts. The dean laughed and said, I'll talk to Tutor you. We can't let such a good seedling go to waste. Tutor Jean still shook his head. Forget it. I saw this guy's hand movements and battle awareness. It's obvious that someone specially trained him. Since he has an expert behind him, we don't need to get involved. Maybe he just came to our academy to get a diploma. The dean pondered for a moment and said, You're right. Then we won't get involved. But I don't know who trained him. To be able to train this guy like this, that person must be extraordinary. If there's a chance, I'd like to get to know him. Chapter 589. Lei Ren won first place and won a large amount of teaching resources for Class 0. According to the rules, every student in the class that won first place was given an individual cultivation room. These cultivation rooms were filled with all kinds of black technology related to cultivation. For example, the star brain could plan a cultivation plan according to the strength of each dragon's cells. There was also a device that could detect the gap between cells and calculate the energy capacity of each cell. There was also a variety of medicines distributed every month. This made the students of Class 0 go wild with joy. They didn't have the qualifications to have these things. It was Lei Ren who fought for them. Therefore, all the students were willing to call Lei Ren boss. Just as the 23 students of Class 0 were about to go wild with joy, Instructor Yu walked into the room. The other students hurriedly returned to their seats with solemn expressions. Only Lei Ren still had a smile on his face. Yu Yanran was very fond of Lei Ren. Lei Ren, you've brought glory to our class today. You've made this teacher raise my head in front of those old guys. If you have any problems in the future, feel free to tell this teacher. As long as this teacher can help, I'll definitely help. The way she spoke didn't sound like a teacher at all. Instead, she sounded more like a gangster boss. Then he asked, That's right. Judging from your fighting techniques and combat awareness, there should be another expert teaching you. Lei Ren nodded. Yes. Yu Yanran was curious. I'm very curious. What kind of expert can teach a genius like you? Are you interested in introducing us? Lei Ren was about to speak when the teaching director came in. He was a bald old man. He said to Yu Yanran, Teacher Yu, I have a few words to say to Lei Ren. Is it convenient now? Yu Yanran nodded. Of course it's convenient. The teaching director waved at Lei Ren and the two walked out of the classroom. Yu Yanran put on a righteous expression and didn't want to interfere. But as soon as the two walked out of the classroom, Yu Yanran's ears perked up and she quietly listened to their conversation. She heard the teaching director ask, Student Lei Ren, right? Congratulations on getting first place in today's mock exam. Lei Ren nodded. Yes. The teaching director asked again. You should have an expert teaching you, right? Lei Ren nodded again. At the same time he admired Mo Sure even more. These mentors could tell that Big Brother Mo was an expert from their own skills. This showed how strong Big Brother Mo was. He nodded again. Yes. The dean asked again, Then can you introduce him to me? I admire him a lot. Just as he said this, Yu Yanran had already walked out of the classroom. Her face was filled with curiosity and anticipation. I also want to meet those experts. Lei Ren pondered for a moment and said, how about this? I'll go back today and ask if he's willing to meet you. The two instructors were speechless. You look at me, I look at you. The expressions on their faces were somewhat strange. The instructors of the academy and especially the instructors of Ocean of Clouds Academy possessed an extremely high status in society. No matter how weak the instructor's strength was, so long as he said he was an instructor of Ocean of Clouds Academy, then everyone would feel deep veneration towards him. After all, the Ocean of Clouds Academy was the strongest academy on Cloud Sea Star. It was just like on Earth. When people heard that there was a professor from Peking University or Tsinghua University, they would definitely be knowledgeable and would naturally be respected. Many people on Cloud Sea Star took pride in knowing the instructors of Cloud Sea Academy. But this Lei Ren, two instructors from Ocean of Clouds Academy took the initiative to meet the person behind you, and you actually said something about going back and asking if he was willing to meet us. If the two of them knew that the expert behind Lei Ren was a super-evolved giant dragon, they probably wouldn't think this way. In the entire Cloud Sea Star, there weren't many super-evolved giant dragons. And there were only 70 or 80 super-evolved giant dragons like Mo Shi in the entire Cloud Sea Star. If Mo Shi revealed his true strength, there wouldn't be any force on Cloud Sea Star that wouldn't want to befriend Mo Shi. It was just that Mo Shi was more low-key and didn't want to reveal his true strength. Hearing Mo Shi say this, the two instructors could only nod. Alright then. Go back today and ask. We'll wait for your reply tomorrow morning. That afternoon, Lei Ren returned to the lakeside villa. With a happy expression he said, Big brother Mo, guess what rank I got in today's mock exam? Mo Shi couldn't be bothered with him. Go ahead. First. Lei Ren excitedly jumped onto the stone table in the courtyard and stretched out a finger. First. There are 7 classes in the entire grade, 150 people, and I'm first. Mo Shi continued to look down at the chess pieces on the table as he casually said, Oh. Lei Ren asked doubtfully, Big brother Mo, why don't you look excited that I got first? Why don't I call a few girls over to accompany you tonight? Only then did Mo Shi raise his head and roll his eyes at Lei Ren. I've taught you so much. If you can't even get first place in the first grade, wouldn't you be too useless? Lei Ren shook his head speechlessly. Can't you encourage me? You only know how to attack me. But what you said makes sense. How about this? My goal is to defeat all my opponents in the final exam in 2 months and get first place among all the students in the academy. What do you think? Mo Shi sighed helplessly. Sigh, mud can't be applied to a wall. Lei Ren was speechless again. One had to know that the academy had a total of 6 grades. 1,000 students. Each grade had to study for 10 years before they could move on to the next grade. The highest grade, the 6th grade, had already studied in the academy for more than 50 years. Their strength also far exceeded that of the first grade students. Some of the students' strength had even surpassed some of the teachers. Now that Lei Ren had just entered the academy and said that he wanted to get first place in the entire academy, Mo Shi was actually not satisfied. Big brother Mo, you can't let me challenge the teachers, right? This time, Mo Shi placed a chess piece on the board and said, Exactly. Lei Ren was even more surprised. Hey, big brother Mo, I know that I have potential, I know that I'm very awesome. But you want me, a freshman who just entered the academy, to challenge the teachers? Isn't this too ridiculous? Mo Shi chuckled. With an expert like me teaching you, if you don't even have the strength to defeat the teachers in your academy, then how useless are you? Lei Ren, Mo Shi continued, I want you to be able to challenge all the teachers in the final exam in 2 months. Including your academy's teaching director who is a level 10 evolved dragon. Lei Ren spat out. The teaching director was a level 10 dragon, the same level as his father. You want me to challenge him in 2 months' time? What kind of joke was this? Chapter 590. Seeing that Lei Ren did not believe him, Mo Shi shook his head and said, I will pass the second transformation of the Thunder Dragon 9 transformations to you. You will learn it within 2 months. And as you continue to practice the Thunder Dragon 9 transformations, your level should be able to rise by 1 within 2 months. At that time, wouldn't it be easy for you who is at the 3rd stage to challenge the 10th stage dean? Lei Ren spat out once again. A 3rd stage challenge, a 10th stage? A 7th stage challenge? Only you can say that. However, after witnessing the power of the first transformation of the Thunder Dragon 9 transformations, he was rather confident in the power of the second transformation. Perhaps he could really challenge the dean at that time. Seeing that Wang Yi did not seem to be joking, the gaze in his eyes became fiery. Alright, from tomorrow onwards, my goal is to challenge the dean. Mo Shi shook his head. What do you mean from tomorrow onwards, from today onwards? Lei Ren could not help but smile bitterly. Big brother Mo, I just got first place, can't you let me relax? I'll call a few girls over tonight, you can also relax. This way everyone will be happy. Mo Shi glared at Lei Ren. Lei Ren laughed awkwardly and did not dare to say anything else. Mo Shi immediately passed the second transformation of the Thunder Dragon to Lei Ren. If he wanted to learn the second transformation of the Thunder Dragon, he would need the cooperation of the Thunder Dragon 9 transformations. Thus, Mo Shi passed the second transformation of the Thunder Dragon 9 transformations to Lei Ren. Whether it was a cultivation technique or a skill, the Thunder Dragon 9 transformations was a collection of the strengths of everyone. It was the easiest to understand, the easiest to practice, and the most powerful cultivation technique and skill. Many people could understand it at a glance, but almost no one dared to practice it. This was because many of the energy circulation routes in the Thunder Dragon 9 transformations were the opposite of what they had learned in the past. For example, light was an energy storage. What they had learned in the past was to store the energy in the back or the energy sea in the abdomen. However, the Thunder Dragon 9 transformations required energy to be stored in every cell. For example, the method of releasing energy that they had learned in the past was to circulate it from the dantian, through several veins, and finally gather in the hands. However, the Thunder Dragon 9 transformations required the transfer of energy between cells. It's like how sound travels at a different speed in air than it does in solid objects. Solid objects travel faster. For the same reason, the transmission between the cells was faster than the transmission between the meridians that seemed to be unobstructed. This knowledge completely overturned the understanding of the dragons. Therefore, even if the average giant dragon saw it, they would think that it was just a made-up secret manual. If not for Lei Ren's complete trust in Mo Shi, he would not have dared to practice this Thunder Dragon's 9 transformations. Lei Ren was extremely excited. Thank you, brother Mo. After saying that, he hurried back to his room to practice. But before he left, he suddenly remembered something. He then turned around and said, Big brother Mo, when I was fighting today, both Teacher Yu and the teaching director could tell that I had an expert guiding me from behind. That's why they wanted to meet you. Mo Shi pretended to be in a difficult position. I'm used to being free and unfettered, so I don't want to know too many people. The more people you know, the more trouble there will be. Lei Ren saw that Mo Shi was in a difficult position and said, Big brother Mo, if you're in a difficult position, I'll tell them that you don't want to meet them. Our teacher Yu is a young and beautiful woman. It's a pity that you don't want to meet them. Mo Shi pondered for a moment and said, I'm used to being free and unfettered, so I don't want to know too many people. But since they're your teachers, it wouldn't be appropriate if I don't go. How about this? You tell them that I'm willing to meet them tomorrow and see when they have the time to come here. Lei Ren chuckled. Indeed, even heroes have a weakness for beauties. He did not feel that there was anything wrong with Mo Shi asking the two of them to come here. One must know that Big Brother Mo was a rank 4 super-evolved giant dragon. But this was only on the surface. Actually, his father had told him that Big Brother Mo's strength had probably reached the level of an ancient giant dragon. Otherwise, he would not have been able to kill more than 300 people from the two family in one move. No matter how high the status of these two teachers was, they were nothing in front of an ancient giant dragon. For Big Brother Mo to meet them was the greatest honor of their lives. Seeing that it was getting late, the two of them returned to their rooms to rest. When it was almost 12 o'clock at night, Mo Shi said, System, sign in. The system's voice sounded frowny face special event sign in successful. Sign in event. Disciple defeated all the students of the academy and won first place in the year. Sign in reward. Water Dragon's 9 transformations cultivation method plus skill, Poison Dragon's 9 transformations cultivation method plus skill, Earth Dragon's 9 transformations cultivation method plus skill, Ice Dragon's 9 transformations cultivation method plus skill, Wood Dragon's 9 transformations cultivation method plus skill. This? Mo Shi was greatly surprised. He actually received so many 9 transformations with different attributes in one sign-in. Previously, the 9th transformation of the Thunder Dragon's 9 transformations had already shocked him. He did not expect the system to produce so many 9 transformations with different attributes. It seemed that these attributes were the attributes of the opponents that Lei Ren defeated today. With so many cultivation methods, the only one missing was the Golden Dragon's 9 transformations. Moreover, there was a special attribute of the Poison Dragon's 9 transformations. He wondered how terrifying it would be if he cultivated the Poison Dragon's 9 transformations to a certain extent. However, Mo Shi currently only had 3 attributes in his body: ice, fire, and lightning. Therefore, he could only cultivate the 9 transformations of the ice, fire, and lightning attributes. Thinking of this, he immediately entered Earth's space. With a thought, he mastered the 9 transformations of the ice and fire attributes. After mastering it, he practiced it in Earth's space. In the end, the 9th transformation of the Ice Dragon's 9 transformations froze the entire space into a solid layer of ice. The 9th transformation of the Fire Dragon's 9 transformations turned the entire Earth space into sticky magma. In other words, at least with a single strike, it could reach the level of destroying Earth. Following that, Mo Shi learned the other attributes. Although he did not have any other attributes, he had already made a plan. He would think of a way to become a teacher of the academy and take in a group of students. When the time came, the knowledge of the 9 transformations would be useful. He would nurture these students and let them slaughter those dragons. Then, there would be no need for him to make a move at all. His dragon slaying points would continue to increase. If someone could go to the battlefield, that would be even better. One had to know that in the current interstellar war, the number of dragons participating in the war could easily reach millions. Tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dragons could be killed in a single battle. Wouldn't that be great? Lei Ren returned to the academy and told the dean and Yu Yanran about Mo Shi's words. The two of them were slightly angry. Especially Yu Yanran, who directly scolded. "I am a teacher of the Cloud Sea Academy. You want me to visit him? You're giving him face." Chapter 591. When Yu Yanran heard that she was going to pay him a visit, she was furious. "You want me to pay him a visit personally? That's giving him face." The dean was also a little uncomfortable. However, the dean was much calmer. After thinking about it, he said to Lei Ren, "If that's the case, then I'll be free tomorrow afternoon after school. Tell him that I'll pay him a visit then." With the dean's experience, many experts had some eccentricities. There were also many experts who were difficult to get close to. If the person behind Lei Ren was a truly powerful expert, then it was reasonable for him to ask him to pay him a visit. So the next afternoon, the dean came to the lakeside villa. Seeing the environment here, he was first amazed. Even if he was the dean of the academy, he couldn't afford to live here. He couldn't even afford to rent it. The rent of 50,000 dragon coins a month was not something he could afford. It seemed that Lei Ren's family had a strong background and was powerful enough. After entering the door, Mo Shi was studying war chess in the courtyard. The dean of teaching looked Mo Shi up and down a few times, his face full of surprise. "Lei Ren, are you talking about this, mister?" Lei Ren nodded. "That's right, what's wrong?" The dean frowned. He looks like... He didn't finish his sentence. But anyone could tell that he meant that Mo Shi didn't look like an expert. Mo Shi also looked away from the chessboard and looked at the dean. The dean cupped his hands at Mo Shi. "You must be Mr. Mo, you've taught a good disciple." Mo Shi smiled. "I was just bored, so I taught him casually." Then the two chatted for about half an hour. In this half an hour, the dean talked about a lot of professional knowledge about cultivation. If it was in the past, Mo Shi wouldn't know anything about this knowledge. After all, he didn't need to cultivate. But now, after mastering the various 9 dragon transformations, he could be said to have a lot of knowledge about cultivation at his fingertips. Sometimes, the cultivation methods he talked about were more effective than traditional cultivation methods. The dean of teaching was stunned when he heard that. He couldn't help but look at Mo Shi up and down again. This person was indeed an expert. Not only was he well versed in all kinds of knowledge regarding the lightning attribute, he was also quite knowledgeable about the other attributes. Moreover, many of his viewpoints were very novel. Although Shi Feng had not verified Lei Ren's theory, just by looking at Lei Ren, a Tier 2 evolved dragon had killed a Tier 4 super evolved dragon. To be able to teach such a disciple, it was clear that Mr. Mo's theoretical knowledge was far superior to many of the academy's instructors. When they were about to leave, the dean of teaching asked, "Mr. Mo, if you have the chance, then I wonder if you're willing to become an instructor in our academy?" Mo Shi pondered for a moment before replying. "Since I have nothing to do anyway, it doesn't matter if I go take a look." The dean nodded. "Then I'll go back and discuss it with the dean today." Emo sure nodded to send the guests off. The next day was Wednesday, and the academy's instructors had a routine meeting. Other than a few instructors with no duties, the rest of the instructors had to participate. At 8:30 the meeting began, but not everyone had arrived yet. The dean cleared his throat and said, "Then let's begin the meeting." One of the instructors said, "Dean, Teacher Jean hasn't arrived yet." The dean said calmly, "Today's meeting is to inform everyone that Teacher Jean has left our academy to take up a post at Proxima Centauri Academy." All the instructors were quite surprised. Usually, even if an instructor left, it would be after the end of the semester. It was rare for an instructor to leave while still teaching yesterday. The dean's tone was very calm, but the instructors seemed to be able to hear the dean's anger behind this calm tone. The dean continued without hesitation. "You can say that Proxima Centauri Academy came to our academy to poach people and successfully poached Teacher Jean Pontu. We don't have as good a treatment as them, and our academy isn't as famous as Proxima Centauri Academy. He can gain more attention and benefits there." All the instructors fell silent. The dean continued. "Actually, I understand Teacher Jin's choice very well. Proxima Centauri Academy's conditions are much better than ours, and their treatment is better in all aspects. They are also better than our academy in terms of fame and popularity. It's understandable that Teacher Jean chose them. If it were me, I would also choose them." But he suddenly left in the middle of teaching this semester. Who's going to teach their 6th grade class 1? The 6th grade is the graduating class, and these few years are very important to them. It's not something that just anyone can take over. And in such a hurry, it's very difficult for us to find a suitable instructor. At this point, the dean took a deep breath. He continued, "Even if he can't wait until the end of this semester, he should at least wait until we find a suitable instructor to take over their 6th grade class 1. He called me at 8 this morning and said that he won't be coming in the future. He asked me to find time to get someone to pay him this month's salary." At the end of the dean's words, there was obvious anger in his tone. His words also turned into 2 words, "Ha." All the instructors looked at the dean. The dean had always been a very kind person, and he was also a person of few words. But today he said so much in one breath and even said, "He." It was obvious that the dean was really angry. Yu Yinran was instantly furious. Running away in the middle of the semester, and he still has the face to ask for salary? Give him a D*****. The other instructors also shook their heads. This is too much. How are we going to find a suitable instructor in such a hurry? The 6th grade class 1 is the most outstanding class in the entire academy. Every one of them is a genius, and they're all proud and arrogant people. If we suddenly change a new instructor, I'm afraid we won't be able to control them at all. After a while, the discussion gradually died down. The instructors all fell silent. Some people shook their heads and sighed. Some people secretly cursed Jean Pontu for being shameless. For his own interests, he didn't care about the interests of the academy and the students at all. Such a person didn't deserve to be an instructor. At this time, an instructor surnamed Bing said, "I have a candidate. I have a candidate in mind. He's a recent graduate from Nanming Academy." When he said this, the instructors were a little surprised. Nanming Academy? It's actually Nanming Academy. There were 650 planets with life in the entire Nanming star zone. Among them, the main planet was Nanming Star. And the strongest academy on Nanming Star Zone was Nanming Academy. At the same time, Nanming Academy was also the strongest academy in the entire Nanming Star Zone. The top students who graduated from this academy were basically fought over by the entire Nanming Star Zone. The dean asked, "He's willing to come to our small Yunhai Academy." Chapter 592. The dean asked, "He's willing to come to a small place like ours?" The instructor nodded. Although many forces are fighting for him, he feels that it's best to start from the bottom. It's the best way to train a dragon. These days he's been looking for such an opportunity. If he can come to our school to teach, he'll be very happy. The dean nodded. "Okay, then tell him to come over as soon as possible. I want to meet him." The instructor nodded. "Okay, I think he can come tomorrow." At this time the dean also spoke. "I do know an expert who can give it a try." Everyone turned their heads and looked at the dean. The dean asked, "Who?" The dean said, "Lei Rin won first place in the freshman mock exam." At that time, everyone thought that he had an expert guiding him. "I went to see that expert yesterday." The dean asked, "How was it?" The dean said, "He's indeed an expert. Not only is he familiar with thunder attribute techniques, but he's also very knowledgeable about water, fire, earth, wood, ice, and even poison attribute cultivation knowledge. All the instructors were surprised. That many? It was already very impressive for an ordinary instructor to master cultivation knowledge of 3 attributes. There were probably very few who could master 4 attributes in the entire star field. How could he master cultivation knowledge of 7 attributes? That was too exaggerated. The dean said in surprise, "Master so many attributes? Then he must be an incredible expert." Did he ask him if he was willing to teach? The dean nodded. I asked him. He said that since he had nothing to do, it should be possible. And most importantly, he should be able to control the arrogant 6th year class 1. Everyone should have seen how arrogant Lei Ren is during the mock exam. Instructor, you should know best. But when I visited him yesterday, Lei Ren was very obedient in front of him. Lei Ren did whatever he said. So I think he should have no problem controlling those arrogant geniuses of 6th year class 1. The dean's eyes lit up. It was one thing to see if an instructor was outstanding and knowledgeable. On the other hand, it was also to see if he could control the students. If he only had profound knowledge, but the students didn't listen to him at all, then what was the point of teaching? Teacher Bing frowned slightly when he saw this. Although the person he recommended was a top student at Nanming Academy, he had to drop out because he had committed a crime. Because he had committed a crime and didn't even have a graduation certificate, it was very difficult for him to find another job. No matter how strong you are, you won't even have the chance to show it. Now that he suddenly had this opportunity, he would be the one to teach the students. If they were taught well, graduation certificates and crimes wouldn't be a problem. After all, teaching qualifications were reviewed once every 5 years. There were still 3 years left before the trial. In these 3 years, he could always find a way to get his graduation certificate while minimizing the impact of his crime. What's more, if he could achieve something in these 3 years, nothing else mattered. But he didn't expect the dean to appear out of nowhere. This was King ridiculous. But there was no other way. The dean had always trusted the teaching director. Moreover, the dean was a good judge of character. Therefore he couldn't say anything. She only hoped that the person she had recommended, who was her friend's son, would perform better tomorrow. The next day, Mo Sure slept until almost 11 o'clock before he woke up. After all, he had played too late with Happy last night. After getting up, he looked at the time. He was a little speechless. Sigh. After shaking his head, he began to wash up and eat. When he arrived at the academy, it was almost 11:40. In the academy, the dean was so anxious that he scratched his head. When he finally saw Mo Sure arrive, he quickly said to Mo Sure, "Mr. Mo, let's go see the dean now. If we're any later, he might have already gotten off work." Although he didn't say it explicitly, the meaning behind his words was that Mo Sure came too late. Mo Sure also scratched his head and said, "I'm sorry. I played chess too late last night, so I woke up late tonight." Soon the two of them arrived at the dean's office. The dean apologized repeatedly. "Dean, I'm sorry. Mr. Mo had something to do in the morning, so he came a little late." The dean smiled and nodded, then said, "It's okay. Our new instructor has already taken office. I think he taught quite well." As he spoke, he pointed at the air screen in front of him. Mo Sure and the dean looked at the air screen. On the air screen, a young man was teaching the students below the stage. He spoke in simple terms. It was obvious that he was very skilled. The students in the classroom also listened very seriously. The dean shook his head helplessly. In fact, he felt that with Mo Sure's level, he would definitely teach better than this young man. However, the dean hated people with a poor sense of time the most. He was 3 hours late for an interview. Who would hire such a person? Mo Sure also felt a little helpless. Happy was really a femme fatale. If it weren't for her, how could he have played until so late? How could he have woken up so late? However, he missed this opportunity. He would think of another way in the future. Thinking of this, Mo Sure also shook his head helplessly. "Sorry to disturb you." As he spoke, he turned around and was about to leave. However, at this moment, on the screen, the new instructor who was teaching suddenly disappeared under his feet. A circular black hole actually appeared. The next moment, the instructor fell directly into the black hole. He instantly disappeared. A moment later, a black hole suddenly appeared on the ceiling. The instructor fell directly out of the black hole. Crack! He fell directly on the lecture table. The lecture table was smashed into pieces. Then, a vine suddenly stretched out from the ground and wrapped around the instructor. Then it swung with force. The instructor was thrown far out of the window. It turned out that there were students with spatial attributes in class 6-1. They also heard from somewhere about the reason why instructor Jean left. This made them quite disappointed in the academy's instructors. They thought that the instructors were the engineers of their souls who taught and educated people. They didn't expect that these instructors were all despicable people who would do anything for benefits. Therefore, the moment this new instructor entered, he was tricked by them. The dean's eyes lit up when he saw this. He stopped Emosher. Then he said to the dean, "Dean, why is this new instructor?" Ahem. The dean coughed twice to hide his embarrassment. Then he looked at Emosher and said, "Then let's talk about this Mr. Emo teaching." The dean wanted to laugh in his heart, but he didn't dare to. He turned to Emosher and said, "Mr. Emo, please take a seat." They talked about some cultivation problems with Emosher. Chapter 593. The dean and Emosher talked about some cultivation problems. The more the dean talked, the brighter his eyes became. He thought that the dean was exaggerating. No one could master the cultivation knowledge of 6 attributes at the same time. After all, the cultivation knowledge of each attribute was extremely complicated and varied. Ordinary people were already very talented if they could master one attribute in a short time. It was impossible to master 6 attributes, no matter how talented they were. However, reality proved that Mr. Emo had done it. He really mastered the cultivation knowledge of 6 attributes perfectly. He even mastered more than the dean in many areas. The dean nodded secretly. Although he had talked to Emosher once before, it seemed that every time he heard Emosher talk about cultivation he would gain something. However, the dean was in a dilemma. "Mr. Emo, can you control these students?" Emosher smiled. "Remove the can." The dean was stunned for a moment before he reacted. "So, Mr. Emo is very confident?" Emosher smiled. "Not very, but too confident." The dean heard this and looked at the dean. This Mr. Mo's professional knowledge was indeed very strong. But why did his words seem a little out of tune? However, since he had already come this far, he could only let him give it a try. "Dean, take Mr. Emo to give it a try first." The dean nodded. "Okay." Then he took Emosher to the door of class 6-1. At this moment, the new instructor had already been taken away. As an instructor, it was indeed tragic to be trampled by a student like that. In the classroom, the students were in a mess. Some were dancing with excitement, while others were lying on the table and laughing. There was a wood attribute dragon that directly used energy to condense many flowers, and the entire classroom became a sea of flowers. The dean asked Emosher next to him, "Mr. Emo, are you ready?" Before he finished speaking, Emosher had already walked into the classroom. In the classroom, the students who were in the midst of celebrating were stunned. They looked at Emosher. Emosher had a smile on his face. "Students, I am your new instructor. You can call me Instructor Emo." The students below the stage looked at each other. Their eyes were filled with excitement. A new round of pranks was about to begin. However, just as they made up their minds, they suddenly felt a bone-piercing chill in their hearts. They looked up in horror at the new instructor on the podium. The teacher's face did not change at all. He was still looking at them with a harmless smile. But at this moment, this smile seemed like the smile of a devil to them. He was like a demon that had just crawled out of hell, as if he could tear them apart in the next moment. One had to know that Emosher was now a rank 5 super-evolved giant dragon. Not to mention that he often went to the dragon cave to cultivate Long Wei. Even Long Wei, a rank 5 super-evolved colossal dragon, was far from what these rank 4, rank 5 and rank 6 students could handle. When Emosher saw that the students had quieted down, he smiled and said, "Aren't you going to greet Mentor Emo?" While the students were trembling in fear, they spoke out one after another. "Hello, Instructor Emo." Outside the door, the dean heard this and heaved a sigh of relief. In the dean's office, when the dean saw this scene, he also looked at Emosher in surprise. How did Emosher make these students listen to him? Could it be Long Wei? But that could only be done by a super-evolved colossal dragon, Long Wei. Could it be that this ordinary-looking Mr. Emo had actually become a super-evolved colossal dragon? Thinking of this, the dean's gaze was fixed on Emosher on the screen. In the entire academy, only the dean was a super-evolved colossal dragon. If they could have another super-evolved colossal dragon as their instructor, then the Cloud Sea Academy would at least be promoted from a 5th-rate academy to a 4th-rate academy. The Cloud Sea Academy was the best academy on the Cloud Sea Star. But in the entire Nanming region, it was at most a 3rd-rate academy. In the entire 10,000 Dragon Star region, it would be difficult to even become a fifth-rate academy. This instructor Mo could control these students, but it would depend on how well he taught. If he could only control the students and not pass on his knowledge, then he couldn't be considered a good instructor. Mo sure looked at these students and pointed at the only girl in the class who didn't make a fuss when he came in. He said, "You, what's your name?" The girl quickly stood up and answered with fear, I'm called Mu Wanqing." She was usually a little timid and the students in the class all looked down on her. So she had always felt inferior. Just now, when she was suppressed by Mo Sure and Long Wei, she was even more frightened. Mo Sure said, "When I came in, you were the only one who didn't make a fuss. How about this? I'll reward you with a breakthrough right away, how about it?" Mu Wanqing was at a loss. Or it could be said that she was too frightened and didn't realize what Mo Sure was saying. When the other students heard Mo Sure's words, they all looked at Mu Wanqing in surprise, and then looked at Mo Sure. Mo Sure ignored them and said to Mu Wanqing, "Now, cultivate by yourself and let me see." Mu Wanqing quickly did as she was told. 5 minutes later, she finished cultivating. She lowered her head and said in a low voice, "Mentor, I finished cultivating." Mo Sure said, "Cultivate again. When the energy runs through the second cycle, go through the dragon spine acupoint. When the fourth cycle, go through the dragon wing acupoint. Everything else remains the same." Mu Wanqing looked at Mo Sure in surprise. When she was cultivating with those mentors, they said that her wood attribute energy must never go through the dragon wing acupoint. Otherwise she was afraid that she would go crazy. Why did this mentor let her energy go through the dragon wing acupoint? When the rest of the students in the class saw this, they all frowned slightly. Because when they cultivated, their energy never went through the dragon spine acupoint. The mentors said that the dragon spine acupoint was a useless acupoint. In the hundreds of thousands of years of evolution of giant dragons, this acupoint had been slowly abandoned. It didn't matter whether there was one or not. So when they cultivated, their energy never went through the dragon spine acupoint. Why did this new mentor let them go through this acupoint as soon as they came in? Did he know how to teach them? However, under Mo Sure's abuse of power just now, none of these students dared to refute. Outside the classroom, the dean of teaching was also slightly stunned when he heard Mo Sure's words. How to go through the dragon spine acupoint? This didn't make sense. He quickly turned around and walked towards the classroom door. If something happened to the students while they were cultivating, how would he explain it to the parents? However, after taking 2 steps he stopped again. Thinking of how Lei Ren was trained to such a state, he thought that this mentor Mo should have some ability. In the dean's office, when the dean saw this scene, although he was puzzled, he was not anxious. This newcomer, teacher Mo, should have some skills. Chapter 594. Cloud Sea Academy, Class 6-1. The girl with low self-esteem Mu Wanqing was cultivating. She didn't follow the usual energy circulation route. Instead, she followed the circulation route that Mo Sure had just mentioned. The first 2 cycles were normal. During the 3rd cycle, the energy passed through the dragon spine acupoint. During the 4th cycle, the energy passed through the dragon wing acupoint. When her energy had just passed through the dragon wing acupoint, she suddenly felt that all the meridians in her body seemed to have become much smoother. These meridians seemed to be much thicker than before. She hurriedly increased the energy output. 5 minutes later, the aura on her body suddenly rose. A huge wave of air spread out in all directions. It blew over the tables and chairs, causing the nearby students to sway. A moment later, the wave of air receded. Mu Wanqing opened her eyes. She was in disbelief and pleasant surprise. She looked at Mo Sure and said, "Instructor, I broke through and became a rank 4 evolved dragon." After saying that, she still couldn't believe it. Previously, she felt that it would be very difficult for her to break through again. Even if she could break through, it would probably take more than 100 years. Not only did she feel that way, but the instructors in the academy also felt the same way. That was why she had always felt inferior. How could Instructor Mo just say a few words and she broke through? Outside the door, the dean was stunned when he heard this. A few words of guidance and she broke through immediately? This was simply unheard of. Even the instructors of the first-rate schools in the Myriad Dragon Star region couldn't do this. When the dean saw this scene, his face revealed his usual shocked expression. Just 2 simple acupoints allowed a student to break through immediately? No one would believe it. When dragons generally needed dozens or hundreds of years to break through, it was simply a joke to teach someone to break through in 5 minutes. Incredible, Incredible, the dean muttered to himself. This instructor Mo must stay no matter what. He was definitely an expert who was much stronger than him. Of course, it was impossible for such an expert to stay in a small place like the Cloud Sea Academy. But even if he only stayed for a period of time, it would be a great fortune for the Cloud Sea Academy. Mo Shi's move instantly stunned all the students present. Mu Wanqing lowered her head and said softly, "Mentor Mo, thank you." Although his voice was very soft, it could be heard that he was grateful from the bottom of his heart. At this time, a tall and muscular student stood up and said in a coarse voice, "Let's go. Mentor Mo, my name is Tuching Earth City. Please give me some advice. Ever since I entered the academy, I haven't broken through." When he said this, his voice was filled with excitement. Generally, it would take around 100 years for an evolved colossal dragon to break through. However, all those who were able to enter the academy were geniuses. After he entered Ocean of Clouds Academy, he'd been able to break through at least once during the 50-plus years from the 1st grade to the 6th grade. However, ever since he entered the academy, not only had he not broken through even once, the energy in his body had not increased at all. It was as if the energy in his body had been locked by invisible shackles. In the end, he simply gave up on himself and gave up on cultivating. Anyway, he was just muddling along and getting a graduation certificate. Now that he saw that Instructor Mo could actually help Mu Wanqing break through, it was obvious that he also had great hope. The other students also looked at Mo Shi. "Mentor Mo, please give me some advice." "Mentor Mo, me too, me too." "Mentor Mo, I also haven't broken through for 2 days. Please give me some advice again." "Get lost, you just broke through the day before yesterday. Why are you here?" "Mentor Su Mo can give you advice, but he can't give me advice." However, Mo Shi did not immediately agree to them. When it came to students, you couldn't always spoil them. You could do whatever they wanted. Then what would you do if they wanted to ride on your neck and poop in the future? Moreover, among these people, there was a guy with the spatial attribute and a guy with the metal attribute. At present, Mo Shi didn't know anything about the cultivation of space and metal attributes. Therefore he waved his hand. "I'm just your homeroom teacher, not your class instructor. Each attribute has its own instructor. You better learn from them." Hearing Mo Shi's words, the other students were all disappointed. Mo Shi continued. "However, it's not like you don't have a chance to receive my guidance." When the students heard this, they all raised their heads. Mo Shi continued. "Do you all know how to play war chess?" When the students heard this, they were all a little confused, but they all nodded. In the 10,000 Dragon Star Zone, war chess was still relatively popular. These students more or less knew a little. Mo Shi continued. "Your temperaments are too weak. Practicing war chess can hone your temperament. I'll give you 10 days to learn war chess from me. When your impetuous hearts slowly calm down, I'll give you some guidance in your cultivation." When the students heard this, they felt that it was strange. What did cultivation have to do with war chess? However, when they heard that they had a chance to receive Mentor Mo's guidance, they were all very excited. After all, it was very likely that they would have a chance to break through immediately. In fact, cultivation and war chess had nothing to do with each other. The reason why Mo Shi said that he would teach them 10 days of war chess had nothing to do with their temperament. According to the system's rules, no matter what he taught someone, as long as they reached 10 days, the system would recognize that person as Mo Shi's disciple. Therefore, Mo Shi would teach them 10 days of war chess first. When the time came, they would become Mo Shi's disciples. At that time, Mo Shi would have 20 disciples in one go. If he signed in again, he should be able to get some good stuff. It was said that he could also sign in for metal attribute and space attribute Dragon 9 transformations. This was Mo Shi's real plan. Therefore, for the next few days, Mo Shi really taught these students how to play war chess. Although the students' standards varied, no matter how good they were not as good as Mo Shi's. One had to know that he had once won the runner-up position in a chess competition organized by the city on Earth. Wasn't it easy to teach these students? These days, the dean had been a little confused. Mentor Mo was able to control these students. This made him very satisfied. However, Mentor Mo didn't let these students learn cultivation and various theoretical knowledge from him. Instead, he wanted them to learn war chess from him. This was a little too ridiculous. Even if it was to hone their temperament, this was still really incomprehensible. One had to know that every parent in the 6th grade graduating class hoped that their children could learn more in the academy, so they were very strict with them. If these students went back and said that they were learning war chess from their mentor every day, what would those guys think? Their parents would probably come to the academy soon. Chapter 595. In fact, the dean's worries were not without reason. Some parents of students came to the academy, and it was not just one but more than 10 parents. They came to the dean's office. Some were aggressive and some were frowning. They insisted on asking the dean for an explanation. "Dean, our child will graduate in 3 years. It was only 3 years. We all hope that he can learn more useful knowledge in the academy. But the new instructor only taught him how to play war chess? Isn't that too ridiculous? Dean, I don't know what kind of magic potion that instructor fed our child. He actually said that the instructor taught them war chess to hone their temperament. What's even more ridiculous is that the instructor can actually guide the students to break through immediately. Yes, since he can guide the students to break through immediately, why can't he guide our daughter? If he can't guide our child to break through, then please teach our child some useful things. Don't play so many tricks." The dean shook his head. "Everyone, our Cloud Sea Academy is a famous academy in the entire Cloud Sea planet. We have absolute credibility. In terms of teaching methods, every instructor has their own set of methods. The reason why instructor Mo let the students learn war chess is to hone their temperament. As for the breakthrough you mentioned, it's not nonsense. It's true. I'll show you a video and you'll understand." As he spoke, the dean played the video of Mo Sure guiding Mu Wanqing to break through in 5 minutes. Those people were all shocked when they saw it. "This is actually true? But this is just too unbelievable. Even if I see it with my own eyes, I still can't believe it. Dean, I'm not doubting you, but this is too unbelievable. Could it be that this video is photoshopped?" The parent who spoke regretted it as soon as he spoke. The instructors of Cloud Sea Academy had an extremely high social status on Cloud Sea Planet. Especially the dean of Cloud Sea Academy. It was said that he was a super-evolved dragon. He was a big shot. Would he be angry with him for speaking to him like that? The dean shook his head and said, "I've asked Instructor Mo, I've also asked Teacher Mo. He also said that after 10 days, if the child's temperament has been tempered to a certain level, he will guide that student. As for whether or not the other child would be able to break through, I was also looking forward to it. If any of you still have any doubts, you can come to me when the time comes. We'll know when we have a look." When the parents heard this, they looked at each other. Although they still found it hard to believe, they couldn't say anything else since the dean had already said so. In the end, they all nodded in agreement. "Then let's wait and see if they can make a breakthrough in 10 days. Today was Mo Sher's 10th day as an instructor. These 20 students were officially recognized by the system as Mo Sher's disciples. That night, Mo Sher said in his mind, "System, accepting 20 disciples can be considered a special event. Sign in for a special event." The system's voice sounded frowny face. "Sign in successful. Sign in event, 20 new disciples. Sign in reward, Void Dragon 9 transformation skill and technique, Golden Dragon 9 transformation skill and technique." Mo Sher was overjoyed. His guess was right. The system had indeed given him these 2 rewards. He immediately entered the space and learned the skills and techniques of the Void Dragon 9 transformations and the Golden Dragon 9 transformations. He had already mastered all the theoretical knowledge of the spatial and metal attributes. In this way, Mo Sher had completely mastered all the theoretical knowledge of the 5 elements: metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. At the same time, he had also mastered all the theoretical knowledge of the 3 special attributes: thunder, poison, and space. He had mastered all the theoretical knowledge of 8 attributes. This was definitely an unprecedented existence in the history of the entire Myriad Dragon Star Zone. In the history of the entire Flaming Origin continent, the one who had mastered the most was a giant dragon known as the King of Chaos. That was a peerless genius. He was born with 2 types of elemental energy. Later, his dragon bloodline mutated twice, allowing him to possess 4 types of elemental energy. Finally, he had a fortuitous encounter and possessed all the 5 elemental energies. Because of this, he spent a lot of effort to study all the theoretical knowledge of the 5 elements. He became a master of the theoretical knowledge of the 5 elements. After him, no other giant dragon had mastered more than 4 types of elemental theoretical knowledge. After all, the dragon race had been passed down for millions of years. The theoretical knowledge of each attribute had accumulated to an unimaginable level. It was extremely time-consuming to completely master a single attribute. If you spent all your time on theoretical knowledge, would you still be able to cultivate? But now, Mo Shi had mastered the theoretical knowledge of 8 attributes. Moreover, this knowledge was richer and more mature than any theoretical knowledge in the world. This was something that these giant dragons could not even imagine. The next day, before Mo Shi arrived at the academy, more than 10 parents had already gathered in the dean's office. Now that 10 days had passed, they wanted to see what kind of ability this teacher who only taught their children war chess all day had. At 8 o'clock in the morning, Mo Shi entered the academy on time. He let out a long yawn. Last night he played very late with Happy again. According to his habit, he would sleep until 11 or 12 o'clock before waking up. But after all, he was a teacher now and had to be a role model. Therefore he got up early and did not eat breakfast. Only then did he enter the classroom on time. As he looked at the podium, he shook his head secretly. It seemed that he had to control himself when he played in the future. In the dean's office, all the parents' gazes fell on Mo Shi. In class 6-1, all the students' gazes also fell on Mo Shi. Mo Shi knew what they were waiting for. He nodded and said, "In the past 10 days I've been very satisfied with your performance in war chess. So I've decided that all of you can receive my guidance today." Wow, that's great. Really? The students immediately burst into an uproar. Mo Shi glanced at the students, and the boiling students quickly suppressed their excitement. They were afraid that if they did not perform well, the teacher would take back what he had just said. Mo Shi pointed at a thin boy and said, "Golden Sword, try to cultivate for me to see." Golden Sword nodded. His eyes were full of sharpness. He was already a 5th level evolved giant dragon, the one with the highest level in this class. After he finished cultivating, Mo Shi shook his head and said, "Don't worry. When you run the 7th cycle, after the energy flows through the Silong acupoint, don't go through the Earth Dragon acupoint. Instead, go through the Dragon Spine acupoint first, and then go through the Sky Dragon acupoint. Nothing else changes." In the dean's office, Golden Sword's father suddenly became anxious. Chapter 596. Jin Jian's father panicked when he heard Mo Shi's instructions. "Dean, stop him. You should know that our golden dragon's energy is very sharp, and the heavenly dragon's cave is very fragile. If we go through the heavenly dragon's cave, we might break it. If that happens, my son will be crippled. None of our metal-type dragons have ever gone through the heavenly dragon's cave." The other parents' expressions changed when they heard that. "Stop him. Dean, does he know how to teach?" It's too late. Seeing that the parents were about to explode, the dean released Long Wei from his body. He was a super-evolved giant dragon. His Long Wei was not something these parents could bear. A chill rose from the bottom of these parents' hearts. They instantly quieted down. Actually, as the head of the school, the dean should not have used Long Wei on the parents. However, if he did not use Long Wei now, these parents were about to explode. In the 6th grade classroom. When Jin Jian heard Mo Shi's words, he was still a little confused. However, when he thought about how Mu Wanqing was in the same situation when she broke through, he immediately felt confident. According to Mo Shi, after the 7th cycle of energy, they should not go through the heavenly dragon's cave. Instead, they should go through the dragon spine cave first, and then the heavenly dragon's cave. The next moment, Jin Jian's expression changed drastically, and his body trembled violently. Mo Shi's right index finger pressed directly on the heavenly dragon's cave on top of his head. After a while, large beads of sweat dripped down from Jin Jian's head. Mo Shi was relieved. Jin Jian's breakthrough had failed. Not only did it fail, but when the energy was in the heavenly dragon's cave, the heavenly dragon's cave was almost crippled by the sharp metal-type energy. When the students saw this scene, they were all shocked. In the dean's office, the dean frowned. He wanted these parents to watch Teacher Mo's performance, but it turned out to be a slap in the face. How the hell was he going to explain this? He glanced at the parents. Sure enough, their expressions all changed. Although they were suppressed by their Long Wei and did not dare to say anything, they were furious. However, Mo Shi soon gave an explanation. He shook his head and said, "Jin Jian, why did you hesitate when you were attacking the heavenly dragon cave?" Jin Jian's eyes were no longer as sharp as before. He said, "I've never been to the dragon spine cave before, especially the heavenly dragon cave. Since I was young, all the seniors have told me that the sword chi of the metal element should never go through the heavenly dragon cave. Otherwise, at the very least, his acupoints would be crippled. At the very least, all the meridians in his body would be broken, and he would never be able to recover. So I hesitated." Emo sure shook his head. It's because you hesitated that you missed the best time. You all think that the dragon spine acupoint is a useless acupoint and is completely useless in cultivation. Actually, let me tell you, the Longji acupoint is the most useful of all the acupoints. Its function was to stimulate other acupoints. When the energy passes through the Longji acupoint at a specific time, it can stimulate different acupoints. After 7 cycles, you'll have to go through the Longji acupoint to stimulate the Tianlong acupoint. After the Heavenly Dragon acupoint was stimulated, its flexibility and strength were greatly enhanced. It was completely capable of withstanding the sharp metal energy. But this time was very short, only an instant. You hesitated just now and missed the best opportunity. As the saying goes, if you're sincere, it'll work. Since you're not sincere, you can retreat. Hearing this, Jin Jian immediately said in fear, "Mentor, I won't hesitate anymore. I'll definitely break through this time." Emo Shi waved his hand and said to everyone, "Mu Wanqing, if you're sincere, break through immediately. Jin Jian, if you're not sincere, you won't be able to break through. Instead, you'll almost go crazy. You'll have to think about how to choose." The students looked at each other. Finally, their gazes fell on Mu Wanqing. Mu Wanqing felt everyone's gaze and her cheeks immediately turned red. Her head could be buried under the table. Finally, a student with the fire element stepped forward. "Mentor, let me do it." Emo Shi nodded. "Begin." That student practiced at once. Emo Shi gave a few simple instructions. The student followed Emo Shi's instructions and practiced again. 5 minutes later, a stream of air suddenly came out of his body and rushed in all directions. Fortunately, Emo Shi was prepared. He condensed an energy shield and covered him, shielding him from the shock wave when he broke through. All the students were pleasantly surprised when they saw this. He really broke through. As long as we follow the mentor's instructions and don't hesitate, we'll definitely break through. Originally, we had to cultivate for decades or even hundreds of years, but with the mentor's guidance, we broke through in 5 minutes. It's too scary. In the dean's office, the dean was relieved when he saw Emo Shi guiding the students to break through immediately again. He looked at the parents again and saw that their eyes were also full of shock. The dean took back Longwei and said to the parents, "I'm sorry. I had to do that just now." However, the parents didn't take the fact that the dean used Longwei to suppress them, because at this time they were all shocked by what they saw just now. "Dean, this is true." With some guidance, she broke through immediately in 5 minutes. "My son didn't lie to me." "Dean, quickly let him guide my daughter. My daughter hasn't broken through for 30 years. Only Jin Jian's father hated that he couldn't go up and give his son 2 tight slaps when he saw this. Of all people to suspect, he had to suspect Mentor Emo. Now Mentor Emo won't let you break through. What should you do? Just tell me what you should do. Next, Emo Shi guided the students one by one. Those students broke through immediately one after another. In the end, only 2 people were left. One was Jin Jian, the other was Tuqing. Jin Jian's father was so anxious that his head was full of sweat. "Dean, please talk to Mentor Emo. I'll do whatever you want. As long as he agrees to let my son break through, I'll pay any price." The dean chuckled and said, "Don't worry, Mentor Su is just teaching Jin Jian a lesson. In fact, he still values your son very much. Otherwise, why would he ask your son to break through first?" Jin Jian's father was slightly relieved when he heard this. In fact, the reason why Emo Shi asked Jin Jian to break through first was that he had plundered the memories of all the students. He knew clearly what these students were thinking. Jin Jian was the one who doubted him the most among all the students. He originally planned to ask Jin Jian to come out and set a negative example to make an example out of him. He didn't expect Jin Jian to come out by himself and hit the muzzle of the gun. At this time, Emo Shi looked at Tuqing. Then he looked at Jin Jian. He said, "Jin Jian, I'll give you 3 days to reflect." "Yes." Chapter 597. This time, Golden Sword did not dare to hesitate anymore. He did not dare to have any doubts about Emo Shi's orders. When he saw the other students breaking through under the guidance of the teachers, he had already made up his mind. From now on, he would not have the slightest doubt about any of the teachers' words. When the teachers, including the dean, saw that Emo Shi had grasped almost all the attributes knowledge, they could not help but open their eyes wide. How many attributes has Teacher Emo grasped? It's simply unbelievable. There are 20 students in this class and they all know the metal, wood, water, fire and earth attributes. Just now, there was also an ice and space attributes. It's already very dangerous to know all the 5 elements, but he even grasped the ice and space attributes, these rare attributes knowledge. This is simply unimaginable. The dean was also dumbfounded. These parents only knew that Emosher had grasped 7 attributes. But the dean knew that other than these attributes, Emosher had also grasped the lightning attribute knowledge. At this moment he no longer doubted that Emosher had grasped almost all the attributes' theoretical knowledge. Metal, wood, water, fire, earth, ice, lightning, wind, poison, time and space. One person grasped so many attributes knowledge. How did this guy learn? Could it be that he did not cultivate? Did he use all his time to study theoretical knowledge? But before he only used long way to suppress so many students. This means that he is very likely a super-evolved giant dragon. In other words, the amount of time he had to cultivate was definitely not little, even more than an ordinary giant dragon. Then how did he grasp all this knowledge? Could it be that he is a time attribute giant dragon? But the time attribute is extremely rare. Currently, in the entire 10,000 dragon star field, there are less than 10 people with the time attribute. Every time attribute giant dragon would be roped in by those big forces. How could he come to the small Cloud Sea planet and teach in the Cloud Sea Academy? It seems that I have to find Teacher Emo to understand all of this. At this moment, Emosher continued to speak to Golden Sword. 3 days later I will see your performance. Yes. Golden Sword said again. Then Emosher looked at the tall and mighty Tuching. This guy is almost 2 sizes bigger than me. According to Emosher's understanding, before Tuching entered the academy, he was an absolute genius there. However, ever since it had evolved into a rank 1 colossal dragon and entered the Ocean of Clouds Academy, it hadn't advanced another rank. And because he was too tall, he was at least 2 meters tall. His movements seemed to be somewhat inconvenient. Because of these 2 reasons, many people rolled their eyes and mocked him. At the beginning, Tuching Earth City also felt inferior for a while. But later on he gradually became thick-skinned. He began to give up on himself and went all out. Thus he did not cultivate much. He could be said to be the most useless student in the entire academy. He looked tall and strong, but in fact, any random student in the academy would be able to beat him to a pulp. At this time, Tuching Earth City's eyes, which have not appeared in brilliance for decades, are full of eager eyes. Instructor Emo, it's my turn. It's my turn. Emosher nodded and turned to the rest of the students. Today's class has been going on for half a day. You should all rest. As for Tuching Earth City, come with me. As he spoke, his mind flickered. The 2 of them instantly disappeared from the classroom. The surrounding students thought that they had teleported nearby. However, through exploration they found that the instructor and Tuching Earth City were not nearby, not even in the academy. Tuching Earth City's father saw this scene and asked the dean in surprise, "Dean, this?" The dean smiled and shook his head. "Don't worry, Instructor Emo just took Tuching Earth City to a place." As soon as the voice fell, Emosher and Tuching Earth City reappeared in the place where they had just disappeared. At this time, Tuching Earth City did not have the previous decadence and self-abandonment look. Instead, he had a confident smile on his face. He disappeared for less than 3 seconds. How could he suddenly change into another person? Tuching Earth City's father's eyes were wide open. He even wondered if Instructor Emo had stuffed other people's souls into his son's body. Tuching Earth City, get ready today. From tomorrow onwards, you will practice according to my method. Yes. Tuching Earth City's face was full of smiles and gratitude. All the students in the classroom and the parents in the dean's office were dumbfounded. Where did they go in the last 3 seconds? What did Instructor Emo say to Tuching Earth City? In fact, within 3 seconds, Emosher took Tuching Earth City to the Earth space. The scene replayed. In the Earth space, Emosher and Tuching Earth City suddenly appeared. Tuching Earth City looked at the completely unfamiliar planet and asked, "Instructor, where is this?" Emosher said, "This is a planet." Tuching Earth City asked, "Instructor, why did you bring me here?" Emosher, "You don't have to cultivate. Even if you cultivate until you die, you won't be able to advance another level." Tuching Earth City. "Instructor, I know my talent is poor, but it shouldn't be so bad, right?" Emosher, "Your talent is not bad. Being able to enter the Cloud Sea Academy shows that your talent is much better than the average giant dragon." Then, why have all my classmates advanced in the past few decades, but I'm still in the same place? Not to mention that I didn't advance, my energy didn't even increase by a bit. My dad and those instructors have thought of many ways, but it didn't work. Emosher said, "Because you have a planetary body?" After a planetary body evolves to a level 1 dragon, the realm will no longer advance. Tuching Earth City's eyes widened. A planetary body? You mean a terrifying existence that can eventually turn the body into an entire planet? Isn't that just a legend? Sure, many legends are true. From the first time he saw Tuching Earth City, the eye of the demon dragon let him know that this guy was an incredible planetary body. Tuching Earth City then asked, but according to legend, a planetary body depends on perception to continue to grow stronger. And in the millions of years of the giant dragon's history, there have been more than 10,000 planetary bodies, but only one giant dragon has achieved a true planetary body. The success rate is so low that it makes the dragon's hair stand on end. Sure nodded. That's because they didn't realize anything at the end of their lives. Tuching Earth City's expression dimmed. Instructor, do you think someone as stupid as me will realize it before the end of their lives? Sure said, with my method even an idiot will be able to comprehend it in the end. Tuching Earth City heard this and immediately became excited. Really? The next moment, Sure's mind moved. Tuching Earth City's entire body began to expand rapidly. Slowly, it turned into a boulder, a mountain range until it became an entire planet. At this time, Tuching Earth City was the planet, and the planet was Tuching Earth City. Sure said to the huge planet that had just appeared above Earth, now that you're a planet, feel it carefully. After saying that, he sped up the time again. In just a short moment, it was as if tens of billions of years had passed. Tens of billions of years was enough for a planet to slowly take shape from nothing. What Sure wanted was for Tuching Earth City to slowly feel this process. Chapter 598. From an outsider's perspective, Sure and Tuching only disappeared for 3 seconds. But in reality, after Sure brought him to Earth, he sped up the passage of time in Earth's space. 3 seconds is equivalent to 10 billion years. Some say this is too exaggerated? Come on, Sure is the god here. Here, he is the omniscient and omnipotent creator. There is nothing he can't do. In this accelerated time of 10 billion years, Tuching has been feeling the changes in his body. He seems to have understood something. Then Sure stuffed Tuching into Earth's core with another thought. Letting him stay inside for 10 billion years, letting him keep feeling. After 10 billion years, Tuching's eyes lit up as soon as he came out. Mentor, I've realized something. Sure said, using my method even a fool can realize it, am I right? Tuching nodded excitedly. Then, his entire body began to change rapidly. He directly revealed his dragon body. The 1,000-meter-long dragon body began to change. The color of the scales on it was constantly changing. It slowly turned into the color of a stone. His entire body was like a boulder that hasn't moved for thousands of years. The spikes on his back were also constantly changing. They looked like trees that had grown out of a boulder thousands of years ago. Sure tried to attack a few times, then nodded and said, not bad, the current you can withstand the attacks of a 7th-order evolved dragon at most. When you turn into a stone form, dragons below the 7th order can't do anything to you, including 7th order. Tuching was suddenly overjoyed. Previously he was only a rank 1 evolved giant dragon. Dragons below the 1st order could bully him. He didn't expect that dragons below the 7th order couldn't do anything to him. This change was so great that it was shocking. Sure continued, from now on, I will take you to experience the growth of a planet every day. I believe that it won't be long before your strength will far surpass others. Tuching hurriedly said, thank you, Mentor. Finally he asked another question. Mentor, where is this place? An illusion I created, Sure said. Tuching Earth City was very surprised. Could a teacher create such a realistic illusion? It was said that some giant dragons could create illusions, but those illusions always had some flaws and weren't too realistic. Only those extremely powerful super-evolved dragons could create illusions that could not be seen through. Could it be that Tutor had already become a super-evolved dragon? Thinking of this, he looked at his mentor in surprise. However, Sure had already brought him back to the classroom with a single thought. Then he said to Tuching Earth City, it's best not to mention this to anyone. Tuching Earth City also replied, don't worry, teacher. I'm not stupid enough to ruin my future with my own hands. He knew that only Sure could bring him into that illusory realm. In that illusion, Sure could speed up the passage of time, allowing him to feel the growth of a planet in a very short period of time. If he told the others and angered the tutor, he would be the only one who would suffer. In the dean's office, Earth City's father saw that everyone else had broken through, only his son had not broken through. He couldn't help but feel anxious. But the expression on his son's face suddenly changed. He was no longer as decadent as before, but full of confidence and gratitude to Emosure. He knew that something must have happened in between. So after school he went to find his son. On the way home with his son he asked, "You didn't break through?" Earth City shook his head. "No breakthrough in level. But under the guidance of my mentor, my strength has improved by leaps and bounds." Father Earth frowned slightly. "Everyone else has broken through, only you haven't. Even if your strength has improved by leaps and bounds, how strong can it be?" Earth City said, "So strong that I can use my body to withstand the attack of any giant dragon below the 7th order." Earth City's father suddenly stopped in his tracks. He turned to look at his son. He wanted to see if his son was exaggerating. However, from his son's eyes and face, he could not see any evasiveness. In other words, his son was telling the truth. He couldn't help but suck in a cold breath. That mentor Emo was so amazing. Just 3 seconds of guidance, and his son's strength suddenly became strong enough to withstand the attack of a 7th order evolved giant dragon with his body? This was more awesome than taking drugs. "Tell me what the hell is going on?" Earth City shook his head. The mentor said, "Let me not talk to others." "Oh. Since when did your father become an outsider?" Father Earth was so anxious that he directly burst out swearing. Earth City was still very firm. "If I tell others casually and annoy the mentor, he will never teach me again." When Earth City said this, Father Earth could only shake his head helplessly. Okay, I won't ask. But then again, what's the matter with the planetary body?" Earth City said, "It's talking about my physique. I have a planetary body, so it's useless to cultivate again. But with the mentor's method, I can even turn my body into a planet in the future. My defense is also at the planetary level." Earth City's father wondered, "Planetary body?" It said that it's a genius body that may only appear once in 100 years. In fact, the success rate is very low. At most, only 1 in 10,000 planetary bodies can eventually achieve a planetary body. So this planetary body is also called a waste body. Earth City's eyes were full of confidence. "Dad, you can rest assured. With the mentor, I have absolute confidence that before graduation, I can reach the level where I can use my body to withstand the attack of a 10th order evolved dragon." Hiss. Father Earth took a breath of cold air. If that's the case, his son is equivalent to being invincible below the 10th order evolved dragon. Then the future of his Earth family is promising. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but secretly look forward to it. He said, "Your mentor is a really capable person. You have to have a good attitude in front of him in the future. Don't be like before. You always cause me trouble for no reason." "Don't worry, Dad. With such a mentor around, if I don't seize the time and make good use of the time before graduation, then I'm a fool." Father Earth saw that his son finally knew how to make progress, and his eyes couldn't help but be slightly hot. After his son found that he had not broken through in the past 3 years, he gradually became decadent. He had been decadent until now. He could only comfort himself that his son came to the college to get a graduation certificate. He never expected that this new mentor would bring such a huge change to his son. Chapter 599. Emosure used one class to conquer all the students. Apart from Earth City and Golden Sword, all the students advanced by 1 level. However, it was far from enough to advance by 1 level. Their combat strength did not increase significantly. So Emosure applied to the school to take these students out for training. Every homeroom teacher and mentor had a chance to take the students out for training every semester. The previous homeroom teacher, Jean Pontu, had not taken the students out for training this semester. On Earth, when the teachers took the students out, they were all trembling with fear. Some were afraid of danger and some were afraid of accidents. If something happened, they would not be able to explain it to their parents. However, in the 10,000 Dragon Star Zone, the giant dragons' physiques were extremely strong. As long as they were not killed on the spot, even if they were seriously injured, they could usually recover in a short time. Therefore, the teachers were free to bring the students out for training. Before leaving, the dean designated an area for Emosure. This is the Misty Mountains. You can train in the southern area of the mountains. The star beasts here are around 100 to 150 years old. The northern part of the Misty Mountains is shrouded in thick fog all year round. Moreover, the mountains are high and the forests are dense. It has become the hiding place of many dragon bandits. It is said that there are as many as 600 to 700 dragon bandits in the Misty Mountains. Therefore you must not go there. The dean knew that Emoshur was very likely a super-evolved giant dragon and was not afraid of these dragon bandits at all. However, he still had to give the necessary instructions. Hearing the dean's words, Emoshur could not help but be secretly happy. If you didn't tell me, I wouldn't have known. Since you said so, I naturally have to go. The next morning, Emoshur took the students and set off for the Misty Mountains. When the students heard that they were going out for training, they were all very excited. They looked forward to going out for training every semester. However, when they reached the forest in the southern part of the Misty Mountains, Emoshur quickly made them realize the reality. All of them could not even deal with a small 100-year star beast cub. This was simply King useless. What have you been doing for the past 50 years? Emoshur was slightly angry. The students looked ashamed. Instructor, when Instructor Jean brought us out for training, we always worked together to kill star beast cubs. We have never fought a star beast cub alone before. Emoshur couldn't help but chuckle. You're about to graduate. After graduation, unless you join the army, you won't have many opportunities to gather together. Could it be that at that time, when you saw the star beast cubs, you could only run away? You guys think that it's easy for you to find a job after graduating from a famous school. But you never know which comes first, tomorrow or the accident. What if you encounter a baby star beast when you're alone? Even if you go to the army, it will be 1,000 times crueler than here. People like you won't even be able to clean the toilet bowl. After being scolded by Emoshur, the students all lowered their heads, not daring to say a word. Even the naughtiest students in the class were stunned by Emoshur's scolding. Next, Emoshur repeated the training he did for Lei Ren. These students first fought a 100-year-old star beast cub alone. Emoshur not only taught them how to exert force, but also how to condense energy in any part of their body. After a short 3 days, these students were already able to deal with 100-year-old star beast cubs. After 10 years, they could deal with 110-year-old star beasts. Then it was 120-year-old star beasts, 130-year-old star beasts. In the end, no matter their level, almost every student could deal with a star beast cub that was one level higher than them. After that, Emoshur imparted the various 9 dragon transformations that he had learned before to them. Of course, Emoshur only imparted the first and second transformations to them. Just to master the first and second transformations would take a few months. As for the third transformation and beyond, it was purely up to luck. After spending 1.5 months to master the first 2 transformations of these dragons, every student could rely on these 2 transformations to fight against star beasts that were at least 5 levels above them. Some were even able to fight star beasts that were at least 160, 70, 80, and even 80 to 90 years old. If converted to the level of giant dragons, they could basically deal with evolved giant dragons that were at least 6 levels higher than them. And among these students, the one who performed the most outstanding was Jin Jian. Because he was not sincere before, Emoshur told him to break through in 3 days. From then on, he did not hesitate to follow Emoshur's orders. After 3 days, Emoshur told him to start breaking through. As a result, this guy broke through by 2 levels. He jumped from level 4 to level 6 evolved giant dragon. This made the students in the class so shocked that their jaws almost fell to the ground. Every level of a giant dragon's breakthrough was very difficult. At their level, it was considered fast to break through 1 level in 100 years. The mentor took them to break through in 5 minutes, which was enough to shock everyone. As a result, Jin Jian, this guy, actually broke through 2 levels in 10 minutes. It was really too shocking. Now, Jin Jian was one of the 2 students with the highest level in the entire class. And his metal attribute energy was extremely sharp. When he learned to attach metal attribute energy to every part of his body, it was as if every part of his body was equipped with extremely sharp blades. Every move could cut through gold and stone. The only person in the class who did not break through was Tuching Earth City. When the mentor taught everyone in the class all kinds of 9 dragon transformations, the only person who did not teach was Tuching Earth City. But Tuching Earth City did not seem to be disappointed. On the contrary, he was always happy. When the students saw this, they all secretly pitied Tuching Earth City. He had been left far behind by the other students and could not make the slightest progress. On the surface, he looked indifferent, but in fact, his heart must be very uncomfortable. How could they know that the current Tuching Earth City, after a month and a half in Emoshur's space on Earth, had also improved at a rapid pace? Before, he could only turn into a boulder. But now, Tuching Earth City could directly turn into a mountain that was 10,000 meters tall. What was the use of this mountain? It fell directly from the sky and hit you, would you be afraid? As for the defense, there was nothing to say. This mountain was not like an ordinary mountain that could be easily knocked down by evolved giant dragons. This mountain was extremely tough. It would be extremely difficult to knock down this mountain if one was not a super evolved dragon. In fact, in terms of strength, Tuching Earth City was already the strongest among all the students. These students were just fooling around. Under Tuching Earth City's attack, destroying a city would not be a problem. However, Emosure did not let Tuching Earth City take action for the time being. If he took action, the others would not have to gain experience. If a mountain came down, those star beast cubs would all be crushed into meat paste, and they would gain experience. Chapter 600. After 2 months of training, the students had mastered all kinds of 9 dragon transformations. Now, almost every student could use all kinds of 9 dragon transformations to defeat opponents that were at least 4 ranks higher. Some of the stronger and sharper attributes, such as Golden Sword, could already be invincible against those below the super-evolved giant dragon. At this time, there were only 5 days left until the graduation exam. The dean had already contacted Emosure and asked him to bring the students back to the academy as soon as possible. Emosure agreed. Then he said to the students, "Since you're almost done with your training, I'll bring you to do something big today." The students didn't know what Emosure meant, but they were all very excited. In the past 2 months, each of them could kill star beast cubs that were above their ranks. He had even hunted and killed a 200-year-old star beast cub. In their opinion, this was already quite an achievement. They didn't expect that in the eyes of their teacher, this was nothing. They were going to do something big next. Did he want them to kill star beast cubs that were more than 200 years old? What a joke, that was an existence equivalent to a super-evolved giant dragon. If they went up, wouldn't they be looking for trouble? But it didn't matter, with their teacher beside them, what did they not dare to do? Although until now they hadn't seen their teacher in action. But they knew that their teacher's strength was definitely that of a super-evolved giant dragon. After all, their teacher had taught them for 2 months, and each of them could defeat enemies that were 4 or 5 ranks higher. Golden Sword was invincible against those below the super-evolved giant dragon. If someone said that their teacher's strength had not reached that of a super-evolved giant dragon, they wouldn't believe it even if they were beaten to death. When they thought that their teacher was actually a super-evolved giant dragon, these students were very proud. One had to know that in the entire Cloud Sea Star, there were probably only about 10,000 people who had reached the super-evolved giant dragon level. If they knew that their teacher was not only a super-evolved giant dragon, but also the only level 5 super-evolved giant dragon on the entire planet, who knew how they would feel. Soon, Emosure led the 20 students through the entire southern part of the Misty Mountains. They arrived at the ridge of the mountain. Looking from the ridge to both sides, one could see 2 completely different styles. The southern part of the mountain range was full of green vegetation and lush trees. A wide river, like a silver jade belt under the sun, floated into the distance. The northern part was completely shrouded in fog. It was impossible to see what was inside. Even if these students used their evolved dragon senses, they couldn't find out what was going on inside. Only Emosure's Draconic will could penetrate the mist and see what was inside. One of the students asked, "Instructor, it is said that there are many dragon bandits' lairs in the fog north of the Fog Mountains. Are we still going?" The rest of the students also looked at Emosure. The dragon bandits were all outlaws. They didn't care about morals or laws. They only cared about killing dragons to steal their goods and steal their treasures. Emosure smiled. "The reason I brought you here today is to suppress the bandits." All the students were stunned. "Instructor, are you sure you're not mistaken? The government has been suppressing it for so many years, but to no avail. Now that you've brought 20 students, you want to suppress the bandits? Wasn't this a little too exaggerated?" Emosure laughed. "What? You don't dare?" After all, these students were still young and full of vigor. How could they withstand such provocation? Why not? Every one of us can challenge someone 5 levels above us. Golden Sword is invincible below super-evolved dragons. What do we have to be afraid of? Actually, there was an important reason that they didn't mention. With a super-evolved dragon teacher by their side, what were they afraid of? However, just as they thought of this, Emosure shattered their fantasy. "Each of you is stronger than those dragon bandits individually. So I won't take part in suppressing the bandits this time. At most, I'll give you some ideas and guide you from the side. As for whether you'll take care of the dragon bandits or the dragon bandits will take you in, it will depend on your skills. The students were all a little nervous but also a little excited. They had killed many baby star beasts, but they hadn't killed a dragon yet. Emosher said, "Follow closely." As he spoke, he flew forward. The group of students behind him hurriedly followed behind. They could only see about 10 meters from here. Even with their perception, they could only see about 100 meters. If they were not careful, they might lose him. Half an hour later, they arrived at the bottom of a cliff. There was a cave under the cliff. According to Emosher's detection, there were about 40 dragon bandits inside. But he didn't intend to tell the students the exact number. Otherwise, without a rank 10 long yen by their side in the future, would they stop suppressing bandits? Emosher said, "The dragon bandits are all valiant and ruthless. They don't follow any rules. We haven't found out how many dragon bandits there are in the cave. You can use 3 to 5 people to lure out some of them. After killing them, immediately retreat. Pay attention to the 2 survivors. Interrogate them separately and see how many dragon bandits there are. If they say the number is about the same, it's true. If the number is wrong, it must be a lie. After killing them, there will definitely be more dragon bandits coming out to investigate. When the time comes, we'll act according to the situation." Yes. The students spoke one after another. At this moment, the class monitor, Shui Bolin, began to give orders. "Mu Wanqing, Kong Ming, Golden Sword, you 3 go to the entrance of the cave and challenge them. The rest of you lie in ambush. Tuqing, you're the weakest. Hide in the distance. When the battle is about to start, cast an earth element energy shield on each of us. During the battle, see if anyone's shield is broken and immediately mend it. At the same time, pay attention to your own safety. During the battle, no one has time to protect you." The students all agreed. Tuqing looked at Emosher. Emosher transmitted his voice to him. "Do as she says first." Tuqing nodded. Then he went to find a place to hide more than 50 meters behind. In fact, 50 meters was not a distance at all for a giant dragon. But there was no other way. There was fog everywhere. They had to rely on their perception to distinguish more than 50 meters. If it was any further, even their perception could not see it. As for Emosher, he could not only see it with his dragon consciousness. And his demon dragon's eye could also easily see everything in this fog. So it could be said that everything was under his control. At this moment, the rest of the students were hiding more than 20 meters away. Kong Ming, Golden Sword, and Mu Wanqing went to challenge them. Mu Wanqing was a little timid. She walked at the back. Golden Sword had a metallic sword aura and was very sharp. He took the lead and came to a place only 10 meters away from the stone cave door. He shouted, "The dragon bandits inside, listen up. Come out immediately and die." A moment later, he saw a dragon bandit inside poking his head out. Chapter 601. The dragon bandit poked his head out and looked around. When he saw Jin Jian and the other 2, he was stunned. F***CK, is it so exaggerated to send students to suppress bandits now? The dragon bandit had been in society for many years and was extremely experienced. Naturally, he could tell at a glance that Jin Jian and the other 2 were students. Kong Ming snorted coldly. "So what if you're students? Students will still destroy you." Hearing this, the dragon bandit laughed. "Little brother, you're looking down on us dragon bandits too much. If just a few students can suppress bandits, then we might as well quit our jobs." Kong Ming said, "Cut the crap. Call out all your dragon bandits and let you see if our students can suppress bandits." The dragon bandit probed. Although there was an ambush nearby, there were only a dozen students. He was immediately amused. Which idiot instructor brought the students to train and actually let the students suppress bandits? Can any B-grade instructor do the job now? Then he looked at Emosher, who was not far away. "You should be the instructor, right? Did you pull your brain out when you came out for training?" Emosher could not be bothered with him at all. Whoosh, a ray of metal attribute energy flashed. The dragon bandit was directly cut in half from head to toe. The eyes of the 2 halves of his corpse were filled with disbelief. Instant kill? Were the students now so terrifying? But it didn't matter. He was still completely dead. After those brothers in the cave rushed out and destroyed these guys, there was still hope for him to be saved. However, just as this thought flashed through his mind, whoosh 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 whoosh, the 2 halves of the dragon bandit's corpse were all cut into pieces. At this moment, Mu Wanqing saw this and suddenly felt her stomach churn. She couldn't help but squat down and vomit. In the past she killed star beast cubs. After all, they were different species, so killing them didn't seem to make her feel much. But when she saw the corpse of the dragon bandit, who was also a giant dragon, she suddenly felt serious psychological and physical discomfort. Kong Ming's face was also slightly pale. He turned to look at Jin Jian. This guy was too sharp. Wasn't he disgusted at all? Of course, Jin Jian was disgusted. But at this moment he focused all his attention on the cave entrance, so the feeling of disgust was not that strong. Although it was his first time killing a giant dragon, he wanted to prove to his mentor that he was not inferior to any giant dragon. When the dragon bandits hiding in the cave saw this, their hearts trembled. Brothers, these students are not to be trifled with. Not to be trifled with, there are only 20 of them. Including their teachers, there are only 21 of them. There are 60 of us. Can't we beat them? Seeing this, the leader of the bandits frowned. He thought to himself, they haven't experienced the beating of society, so they don't know how ruthless the dragon bandits are. Brothers, let's attack together and destroy these bastards. With a shout, more than 60 people immediately rushed out from the edge. However, right after they rushed out, all of them suddenly stopped moving. The space around them seemed to have been sealed. No matter how hard they tried, no matter how much energy they used, they couldn't move at all. They were shocked. Not good, there's a space attribute giant dragon. The golden sword was the first to strike. His entire being seemed to have become one with the sword. In an instant he attacked the dragon bandits at the very front. Whoosh, the dragon bandits had exploded. The rest of the dragon bandits' expressions changed. They hurriedly struggled with all their might. These students were still lacking in actual combat experience, so they couldn't seize the opportunity of Kongming's space imprisonment. They were slightly slower, and the dragon bandits broke free. There were too many people here. Kongming's space imprisonment could only imprison them for 3 seconds at most. After these dragon bandits broke free, they all revealed their ferocity. The bandit leader roared angrily, "Kill them!" He could tell that although some of these students were of the space attribute, their levels weren't high. They couldn't imprison them for too long. Moreover, these students didn't cooperate well with each other. In addition, they had 3 times the number of these students. If they still couldn't win, they wouldn't be able to survive. That was why he ordered these brothers to kill these students. These students were indeed lacking in actual combat experience. In addition, they weren't as fierce as the dragon bandits to begin with. The dragon bandits had the aura of desperation, which they couldn't compare to. Therefore, they were at a disadvantage as soon as they started fighting. Whoosh, a student's chest was pierced through. Crack, a student's leg was directly cut off. Puff, at this moment, another student's head flew into the air. Wang Yi pretended not to see this. These students were the top geniuses of their respective families. They were usually doted on by everyone. They had never suffered such a blow before. If they didn't suffer a little now, they might not be able to take it if they had to suffer again when they entered society. Rather than that, it was better to let them suffer now. This way they would grow faster. Soon these students all fell to the ground. Even if they had the Earth attribute light shield of Earth City, they couldn't withstand the attacks of so many dragon bandits. When Emosher saw that one of the students was about to be beaten to death, he used his telekinesis to save him. Emosher snatched the body and head of the student who had lost his head. Chapter 602. When Tuqing appeared alone in front of the 60 dragon bandits, all the students were stunned. Tuqing? Instructor, how can you let him deal with so many dragon bandits alone? Instructor, get him to come back. Tuqing, you idiot, come over here. Tuqing had always been the one at the bottom of their class. It had been almost 60 years since he entered the academy. His level had never increased. Because of the limited energy in his body, he could not learn any slightly advanced Earth attribute skills. Now there were 19 of them with all kinds of attributes, but they were still defeated by those dragon bandits. Tuqing, on the other hand, was facing 60 dragon bandits one by one. This was completely suicide. However, Emosher was not moved at all. Tuqing was also not moved. Facing those dragon bandits who were mocking him, he turned around and looked at Emosher. Emosher nodded slightly at him. The next moment, Tuqing roared, "Ah!" When those dragon bandits saw this, they could not help but laugh. That's quite scary. It's okay to scare a little girl. But don't you know who I am? As they said that, those dragon bandits continued to pounce. They were going to chop Tuqing into meat paste. However, at this moment, Tuqing suddenly leaped into the air. At the same time, his body rapidly expanded and changed. His skin began to petrify and even his eyes began to petrify. His body no longer looked like a human but like a huge rock. And this huge rock was still growing. In just a moment, it had turned into a mountain 10,000 meters tall, more than 50 kilometers long and wide. When those students saw this, their eyes almost popped out. Tuching? This? Oh my God. Those dragon bandits who had just pounced over also had a drastic change in expression. They had seen dragons that were tens of thousands of meters long, and they had also seen super-evolved dragons that were 100,000 meters long. But this guy could turn into a 100,000-meter tall mountain. They had never seen it before. In shock, they hurriedly wanted to escape. However, it was too late. That mountain fell from the sky. Rumble, 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 the ground shook violently. Mountains collapsed and the earth cracked. Within a radius of hundreds of kilometers, there was an extremely strong tremor. Trees toppled and birds bugled. As for the area within 50 kilometers, there was no movement at all, because everything was firmly pressed down by this huge mountain. Rumble, rumble, with a thought, Mo sure brought the students away from their original spot. It was floating in the sky more than 60 kilometers away. Looking at his eyes, everything was shaking. It was as if someone was constantly running around with a camera in their hand. The tremors lasted for more than 5 minutes. The smoke and dust that filled the air lasted for a full 15 minutes. When a gust of wind blew and the dust settled, the mountain had already disappeared. A figure could be seen slowly emerging from the dust cloud. It was the unremarkable Tuching. Around him, within a radius of 50 kilometers, the ground had sunk several dozen meters deep. All the trees, rocks, mountains, and rivers inside no longer existed. As for the close to 60 dragon bandits, they had long been crushed into thin pieces of paper. They were like human specimens that had been crushed, sinking deep into the ground. Seeing this scene, except for Tuching, all the students were dumbfounded. Was this still the guy who ranked last in their eyes? It had been almost 60 years since he entered school. This Tuching couldn't do anything but eat first. This kind of student was often the most annoying. So there was no one in the class who had a good relationship with him. He had also given up and lost his drive to improve. In everyone's eyes, this guy was just waiting to graduate and leave. But now, the close to 60 dragon bandits that 19 of them couldn't deal with together were killed by him in one move? Wasn't this 2F** King big of a contrast? And it could actually become such a huge mountain. This was really F** King ridiculous. It seemed that not to mention 60 people, even if it was 600 people, 6,000 people, or even 60,000 people, Tuching could also kill them in one move. It was said that Golden Sword was ignorant below the super-evolved dragon. But looking at Tuching, he was probably infinitely close to the super-evolved dragon. One must know that he was only a rank 1 evolved dragon. In everyone's shock, Tuching slowly walked over. Mo sure asked with a smile, "How do you feel?" Tuching, "A little disgusting." With that, he vomited all over the ground. After all, it was his first time killing people, killing dragons. And killing so many at once, it would be strange if he didn't feel disgusted. When he was almost done vomiting, a group of students said one after another, "Tuching, you're really something. We were all blind before. Is this the power of the planetary body? Didn't you say before that the planetary body needs to be comprehended, and there is only a 1 in 10,000 chance of successfully comprehending it? I can't see that you usually look like a broken jar, but in fact it's all for us to see. It's only been 2 months and you've already comprehended it to this extent." This was the first time Tuching had been praised by his classmates in the past 60 years. He, who had always had a face as thick as a city wall, scratched the back of his head in embarrassment and laughed twice. "It's not that I comprehended quickly, it's that the mentor taught me well." This was the truth. Although he had a planetary body, he wasn't too smart. With his brain, he wouldn't be able to comprehend it even if he was given 8 lifetimes. It was Mo sure who put him in the Earth space so that he could experience hundreds of millions of years in a few seconds. It allowed him to constantly feel the formation of a planet. When he really couldn't comprehend it, Mo sure used the omniscience and omnipotence in the Earth space to directly make him comprehend it in an instant. This repeated over and over again, and he was able to reach his current level in more than 2 months. All the students listened and looked at Mo sure. They believed that Tuching's words must have been taught well by Mentor Mo. Without Mentor Mo, Tuching probably wouldn't have been able to reach 1 in 10,000 of what he had just done in this lifetime. It wasn't just Tuching. Without the mentor, all of them were still the same as they were 2 months ago. The self-righteous students of Cloud Sea Academy were all complacent. They didn't know what a real fight was, and they didn't know how dangerous the fight with the dragon bandits was. When Mentor Gene Panda left, they were still in a bad mood. They even planned to take over the mentor of their class. Now that they think about it, they were really stupid. If they had really driven Mentor Mo away, it would definitely have been the stupidest thing they had ever done in their lives. Chapter 603. When Tuching Earth City killed nearly 60 dragon bandits in one move, the students were naturally surprised. Even Tuching himself was quite surprised by himself. Although he knew that he could transform into a mountain, he never dared to think that he could kill so many dragons in one move. One had to know that those guys were all of a higher level than him. And it wasn't just 1 or 2 levels higher. This made Tuching's eyes fill with tears. If his parents knew that he could kill so many dragons in one move, he didn't know how excited they would be. But Mo sure wasn't excited at all. If he had to say that there was an emotional change, it would be gratification. The kind of gratification a teacher felt when he saw his student improving. At this moment, the system's sexy voice sounded in Mo Sher's mind. Frowny-faced dragon slaying. 334500. He was one step closer to advancing to a rank 6 super evolved dragon. He reckoned that after exterminating all the dragon bandits in the Misty Mountains, he would be able to level up no matter what. Next, Mo Sher took out some healing potions for the students to apply and consume. The recovery speed of these potions he received from the system was very abnormal. No matter how serious the injuries of the students were, they could recover within 5 minutes. This caused the students to be very surprised. "Teacher, where did you get this healing potion? I'll get my family to buy some too." Mo Sher smiled and shook his head. "It's a secret ancestral recipe, self-made." The class monitor, Shui Bolan, took the bottle and looked at it. He looked up and asked, "Teacher, can I buy some from you? You can name the price." Shui Bolan wasn't short of money. But was Mo Sher short of money? What a joke, he didn't need to spend money on cultivation. The Lei family paid for his food, accommodation, and other expenses. Therefore he didn't spend much money usually. He shook his head and said, "These potions of mine are all exclusive. I won't sell them for any price. You guys are my students, so I'm letting you use them for free. If it were anyone else, you can recover on your own." Shui Bolan could only shake his head helplessly. "Alright, rest up. When you guys are fully recovered, we'll head to the next dragon bandit's lair." The students didn't have any complaints. Although they had failed to suppress the bandits just now, after that fierce battle, they had experienced the cruelty of real combat. At the same time, they had also learned a lot. They had learned to not hold back when facing their enemies. He had learned that when facing an enemy, he had to put aside all the principles of Jianghu, etiquette, justice, integrity, and shame. Only if he could survive would he have the chance to talk about these things. At the same time, they also learned a lot of combat skills. Some of the moves that they thought were cool before were useless in battle. They learned that in a battle of life and death they should throw away all the fancy tricks. Instead, he used the simplest and most direct movements to greet the opponent's most fatal weakness. They rested for more than half an hour. This half an hour was mainly for the students to recover mentally. His body only needed 5 minutes to recover. However, they had just experienced such a great battle, and it would be difficult for them to recover in a short period of time. Mo Sher had given them half an hour of rest, but it was far from enough for them. But that was exactly what Mo Sher wanted. According to him, giving these students half an hour of rest was already more than enough. On a real battlefield, the enemy wouldn't be so nice as to give you half an hour to rest. If it was a large battlefield, the beginning of the battle may take a few hours or even more than 10 hours. Would the enemy give me time to rest during this period? When Mo Sher was on Earth, he faced hundreds of millions of zombies. Who would give you time to rest in the wild at that time? As soon as you encountered a zombie, you had to fight immediately. And at that time, his recovery ability was far less than the current students. Didn't he survive? After half an hour, most of the students had not recovered mentally. Among all the students, only Golden Sword and Tuching Earth City looked normal. Golden Sword had always been sharp, and there was nothing wrong with his quick recovery. Tuching Earth City, on the other hand, didn't participate in any battle at all. Just one move and the other side was finished. Therefore he hardly needed any recovery time. It was just that he had just turned into a mountain, which made him a little tired. The body of a planet is different from the general dragon. The body of a planet doesn't care how much energy there is in the body. It's about perception. As long as you perceive it, even if there is no energy in the body, you can turn into a mountain. The body of a planet only needs physical strength. The better the physical strength, the longer the time you can turn into a mountain. Right now, Golden Sword could only last for more than 10 seconds at a time. Therefore, Emosure had given him 2 tasks these days. One was to perceive the body of a planet, and the other was to train his physical strength. And these could be done in an extremely short time in Earth space. At the same time, Emosure also had a plan. After eliminating the dragon bandits here, he would let these students enter his Earth space for a period of secret training. The reason why he didn't bring them in before was that he wasn't familiar with these students. He didn't know their morals. Now, after a period of understanding, coupled with their admiration for Emosure in their hearts, Emosure was completely at ease with them. The Misty Mountains were very big. With the students' flying speed, it took more than an hour to reach the second dragon bandit lair. When they landed in the dragon bandit lair, the students looked at the cave entrance and were all very surprised. The Misty Mountains were full of fog. The visibility was less than 10 meters. Even if they used the perception ability of a giant dragon, they could only sense a range of 100 meters at most. Perhaps even the dragon bandits who had been living here all their lives would get lost if they flew in the air like them. How did the instructor distinguish the path? Moreover, these dragon bandits had been here for hundreds of years, and the government couldn't do anything to them. They couldn't find the path here either. How did the instructor know where the dragon bandits were? Of course, they didn't know that their instructor wasn't just a powerful super-evolved giant dragon. He was also a level 10 Long Yenshur. In the 10,000 Dragon Star Zone, Long Yenshur wasn't as strong as on Earth or the Flaming Land. After all, everyone was a giant dragon. It was very difficult to hurt them with Dragon Will. But Dragon Will was still very useful. Its greatest use was to scout out the situation in the surroundings. On the Flaming Land, the highest was level 10 Long Yenshur. And because Dragon Will didn't add much to battle, very few Long Yenshur would spend the effort to cultivate to level 10. Usually they would cultivate to level 5 or level 6 or level 7 at most. That was because Dragon Will was harder to cultivate at the later levels. And giant dragons would spend more time on their own leveling up, so they naturally didn't pay much attention to cultivating Dragon Will. Chapter 604. Because there were no dragons to focus on cultivating their Dragon Will, Emosure's level 10 Long Yenshur surprised these students. Next, Emosure let the students analyze the enemy situation and come up with a corresponding attack plan. Occasionally he would give some guidance from the side. Half an hour later, these students finished their analysis and discussion, and then began to implement their plan. Another half an hour later, the plan was successfully implemented. Of course, this plan did not include Earth City. Earth City was too strong. If it killed all of them in an instant, what else was there to plan? And in order to train their abilities, they could not let Earth City kill them in an instant. The result was obvious. These students were beaten up by the dragon bandits until they could not take care of themselves. But this time it was better than last time. This time they first let Kong Ming do a wave of control, then let the Ice Beauty do another wave of control. Then the water element Water Ripple did a wave of control. The 3 consecutive waves of crowd control lasted for a total of 10 seconds. The rest of the students took advantage of these 10 seconds to kill 8 dragon bandits. This made Emosure very happy. The most gratifying thing for a teacher was to see the improvement of his students. However, these students killed the 8 dragon bandits, which made the rest of the dragon bandits furious. They crazily took revenge on them. These students were soon beaten to a pulp. At this moment, Emosure used the Dragon Will to pull these students back. At the same time, Earth City moved again. It turned into a mountain and pressed down. All the dragon bandits were instantly destroyed. In Emosure's mind, the dragon slaying points increased by more than 50. Dragon slaying points, 388,500. In the next 2 days, they destroyed 6 groups of dragon bandits. The students improved more and more. When they destroyed the 6th dragon bandit group, they were no longer being beaten up one-sidedly. Instead, they were able to fight the dragon bandits to a draw. One had to know that their numbers had always been inferior to the dragon bandits. Moreover, these dragon bandits were all people who licked blood on the blade, desperados. With 1/3 of the dragon bandits' numbers, it was already quite an achievement to be able to fight them to a draw. Emosure originally wanted to let the students train for a few more days. Unfortunately, there were only so many dragon bandits in the Misty Mountains, and they were all wiped out. Emosure could not help but shake his head. Squad leader Shui Bolin asked, "Instructor, why did you shake your head? Is it because we didn't do well enough? Emosher asked, what do you think? Shui Bolin thought for a moment and said, compared to those students of the same level, we have already done very well. Emosher shook his head. It's too small. I've seen someone who, at your level, was already invincible against anyone below the super-evolved colossal dragon. Shui Bolin shook her head. What's so strange about that? Isn't the golden sword also able to do the same? Emosher smiled. Jinjian is good at one-on-one fights, but the person I know is good at one-on-one fights. 1 against 100, 1 against 1,000, they're still ignorant of those below the super-evolved colossal dragon. Shui Bolin shrugged his shoulders. That's not surprising, Tuching Earth City can do 1 against 1,000. Emosher shook his head again. Tuching Earth City needs someone to cooperate and control the enemy within the range of his big move to show great lethality. And the person I know doesn't need the cooperation of others at all. Shuttling through thousands of troops, he can also stroll leisurely. Mu Wanqing lowered her head and asked in a low voice, Instructor, the person you're talking about, is yourself. Emosher smiled but did not answer. The students were all curious. Their tutor was able to train them to such an extent in just 2 months. Their instructor's strength must be extraordinary. It was very likely that he was a super-evolved colossal dragon. But as for how strong their instructor was, they had never seen it. Instructor, your realm should be a super-evolved colossal dragon, right? Is it rank 1 or rank 2? Tuching Earth City asked. Emosher still smiled and did not answer. If there's a chance in the future you may see it. Seeing that Emosher did not answer their questions, the students could only give up. But in private they guessed that Emosher was very likely a rank 1 super-evolved colossal dragon. There were only about 10,000 rank 1 super-evolved colossal dragons in the entire Cloud Sea Star. With such a person as their instructor, their ancestors' graves would probably be smoking. Of course, there were also people who guessed that he was a rank 2 super-evolved colossal dragon. There were only 5,000 or 6,000 of them in the entire Cloud Sea Star. If their instructor was really rank 2, their ancestors' graves would probably be on fire. As for rank 3 or 4, they did not even dare to think about it. There were only a few hundred rank 3 super-evolved colossal dragons in the Cloud Sea Star. There were only 70 or 80 rank 4 ones. Each of them was a big shot. How could they come to the Cloud Sea Academy to teach students? What they did not know was that when they killed those dragon bandits, Emosher had already advanced to a rank 6 super-evolved colossal dragon. A rank 6 super-evolved colossal dragon was a unique existence in the entire Cloud Sea Star. Even the Star Lord of the Cloud Sea Star was only a rank 5 super-evolved colossal dragon. In the entire star field, only those who reached rank 5 and above could become Star Lords. In other words, Emosher's strength now did not lose to any Star Lord. Even if his level was lower than theirs, with Emosher's ability to challenge those of a higher level, he could fight them head-on. So on any planet he could walk sideways, vertically, or diagonally. He could walk however he wanted. At this moment, Emosher looked at the dragon-slaying points in his mind. Frowny-faced dragon-slaying points. 11210000. It would be difficult for him to level up again in the short term. Unless Emosher went on a killing spree and slaughtered all the colossal dragons on the planet. In that case he could quickly become an ancient colossal dragon. But he did not know much about the star field. Who knew if there were some hidden big shots that could kill him with one slap? So now Emosher still adhered to one principle: develop wretchedly and don't be reckless. If he wanted to be reckless, he would nurture these students and let them go out and do whatever they wanted. Since there were no more dragon bandits in the Misty Mountains, Emosher planned to bring these students back to the academy to take the final exam. But they had just flown for more than 1,000 kilometers when Emosher suddenly stopped. The students also stopped. Emosher turned to the right and said, "All of you step back." The students knew that when they encountered something stronger than them, the teachers would usually let them deal with it themselves. Now that the teacher was telling them to step back, it meant that this thing was far from what they could deal with. Soon they sensed that thing. Everyone's expression changed drastically. Because within their range of perception, they could not see the full appearance of that thing at all. This was enough to show that the thing was huge. Some students hurriedly turned on their multifunctional watches and opened the Star Beast Cub level test software. Soon the test results were out. And in the past, the test results only showed the level. This time the screen kept flashing with a red light and a warning sound. Warning: you have encountered a 250-year-old Star Beast Cub. It is equivalent to a rank 5 super-evolved colossal dragon. Please avoid it as soon as possible. Please avoid it as soon as possible. Hearing this, all the students were stunned. 250-year-old star beast cub? Equivalent to a rank 5 super-evolved colossal dragon. An existence on the same level as a star master. You're tuning in to the Han Lee's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.